Jordan.
I mean, he looks like 50.
Well, that's even creepier than Adam.
Yeah.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, January 24th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by PrizePicks. 7 games ahead of us. 7 games that we didn't get a chance to break down on the strategy show earlier today. Technical difficulties. Apologies for that, but we have got you covered. We've got this show, and then we've got Live Before Lock for an hour and a half. You guys will enjoy it. Hit the like button if you haven't done it already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Names are on the screen. Adam, what's up? How's your Tuesday?
Going pretty well. Woke up this morning to do the strategy show and then realized I didn't have to, so that got my day off to a nice start.
Can't beat that, right?
Yeah, always nice. It's the closest thing you get, like as an adult, to showing up to class and finding out your teacher's sick.
I made the same analogy today, but that was for our technical difficulties on the strategy show because I got to leave at 10:30 and go to sleep at a half hour faster than I wanted to. So it worked for me. We have not, as a site, really talked about this slate yet. So as much as I would like to just shoot the shit proverbially here, we should just get into it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls, 2-point favorites in Indiana, 234 total. And at least the Bulls side of this one should be pretty easy to talk about. Now, they are without Goran Dragic for today. Kind of condenses their rotation a little bit. Don't know how much it matters. Single-digit ownership going to everybody on the DK side. DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine are all underpriced relative to where they are on DK on FanDuel, so they are pulling ownership there. But on DraftKings, I have a hard time wanting to get to anything from Chicago specifically.
Yeah, nothing that looks great. You know, obviously, anytime you get to DeRozan, Vooch, Levine, that's fine. But all the salaries are relatively expensive. DeRozan coming in at $9K, probably the easiest to get to, just because he has shooting guard or not shooting guard, small forward and power forward eligibility. It's a good matchup against Indiana, but just this team pretty much correctly priced now. You do have a cheap Alex Caruso, a cheap Patrick Williams that, you know, in large field tournaments, if you want to use them as lower owned pivots to more popular guys at their positions, that's fine. But I don't think that there's any real sense of urgency getting to any of these guys.
I think we're on the same page. And I know we have teams that we definitely have to talk about, like the Indiana Pacers. This is where it starts to get interesting. Andrew Nembhard is questionable. Tyrese Halliburton is still out. And on Saturday, we got TJ McConnell starting and playing 39 minutes. Now, I don't think that TJ McConnell is going to play 39 minutes today, but he could. And the other piece here is that Jalen Smith was the straight backup to Miles Turner, 36 minutes to 12 as a split. Also interesting. We've got massive ownership coming into McConnell. Buddy Hield is getting some love. Benedict Mathurin getting some love. And then Jalen Smith actually is the 4th most owned guy from Indiana. Let's just start with TJ McConnell. Seems to me that he's good chalk. Where do you land on him for today?
I think he's good chalk for a couple of reasons. One, I've talked before about how even when he was coming off the bench, I thought he was as good or better of a play than Andrew Nembhard for a variety of reasons. But in the past, when we've seen him start without Halliburton or prior to that, I guess Brogdon, we've seen him actually play big minutes and just give you 34, 35, 36 minutes. We saw 39 last game, like you said. So I don't think there's any reason you should be looking at this and saying like, oh, he's starting, but he's still probably going to be limited to say 27, 28 minutes. He's just going to look really good if he is starting again. He's 6,100 on DraftKings, so that salary is coming up a bit, but not enough to offset the bump in minutes projection if he's starting. You know, if he's coming off the bench, you're typically projecting somewhere in the 24 to 26 minute range. If he's starting, you're at least projecting 30, if not more. I personally would probably go more. We have him at 31. It's just going to make him look really good. Without Halliburton on the floor this year, 1.07 DraftKings points per minute for McConnell. Not a bad matchup. Just makes it really difficult to get away from him, even though he is popular.
Now, as I look at the rest of Indiana, I think it's a little bit flatter than what we're seeing for some of this ownership. I'm a little surprised to see basically nothing coming into Miles Turner at 7,100, particularly after we just saw him play 36 minutes. Not like I'm projecting him like that. I do understand the value on Jalen Smith, but how do you want to manage the Hield and Mathurin ownership? What do you want to do with Neesmith? How does this make you feel about Nembhard, even with the Q tag? There's a lot more to going on here for Indiana.
So the more minutes that TJ McConnell plays, the worse it is for Nembhard if he's in. At 4,900, if he's starting and if he's actually projected to be 4% owned, you can always make that case in tournaments. But chances are, if he's ruled in, that ownership's going to come up in like the 8 to 10% range, and he just disappears when he shares the floor with TJ McConnell. Overall this year, 0.9 DraftKings points per minute without Tyrese Halliburton on the floor. But if you put TJ McConnell on the floor, Andrew Nembhard's played 188 minutes and he's produced 0.64 DraftKings points per minute. He just doesn't do anything. McConnell takes over the assists. So, and this is a big reason why, even coming off the bench, McConnell was the guy that I preferred, was that Nembhard was just like completely dependent on how many minutes McConnell's going to play. Now you're just kind of being told McConnell's going to play more minutes if he starts. It makes it really difficult to want to get to Nembhard. You can, make that case where it's like, well, he's not 5 to 10 times worse than McConnell, and he's not. But I'm still certainly going to prefer getting the McConnell. 5,400 for Mathurin is fine. He came off the bench last game, but still played 38 minutes. You're not expecting 38 minutes, but even if he gets up around 30 at that price tag, he's at 1.09 DraftKings points per minute with McConnell on and Halliburton off this year. The upside for him is very clearly there. 1 fantasy point per minute overall without Halliburton on the floor. Buddy Hield at 6,200, playing 13% ownership, just should play a bunch of minutes. Played 35 and a half last game. He's at a little over a fantasy point per minute without Halliburton this year. It's just a team that, those guys are likely to play enough minutes that they look pretty good. We have Jalen Smith pulling 15% ownership, which is a little concerning, but also I get it because he's only 3,200. The problem is that, well, the downside or upside, kind of depending on how the game goes, is he's most likely just going to play whatever minutes Miles Turner doesn't play. Last game, that resulted in 12 minutes for Jalen Smith, which you're pretty much never going to want 12 minutes of somebody that's pulling 15% ownership. But it's not like Miles Turner averages 36 minutes per game. If you say Turner is going to play 30 to 31, that means you're giving Smith 16 to 17. If Turner gets in foul trouble, you're getting more for Jalen Smith most likely. So he's just too cheap for the good point per minute guy that he is. It is just always scary going to a backup that conceivably could play 12 minutes and is popular.
Thoughts on Turner today?
I think it's an interesting way to offset Jalen Smith. So yeah. I wouldn't want to play them together because Turner's expensive enough where, if Turner does well at 7,100, you could still get a good game from Jalen Smith. But the true tournament winning game is Miles Turner gets in foul trouble and Jalen Smith plays a bunch of extra minutes, or Miles Turner plays 36 minutes, Jalen Smith only plays 12. So I don't want them together, but you're getting 3 times the ownership coming into Smith because he is so much cheaper and because he does have better positional flexibility. If Miles Turner avoids foul trouble and just plays 34 plus minutes here, he's a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy without Halliburton on the floor. He's going to look like a good option at low ownership. So I do think it's easier to get to Jalen Smith, but I like that idea to pivot to Turner in large field tournaments as a way to leverage against a popular, very volatile play in Smith.
He is right now one of my bigger stands for leverage in GPP. So that was my question was at least a little bit loaded for myself, but as a Miles Turner fan, I'm rarely mad about it. Anything else that we can do here for Indiana? And I guess we should talk on the off chance that we don't get Nembhard today. Who gets the biggest benefit? Is that like Chris Duarte or O'Shea Brissett? Because it feels like there's not too much meat left on the bone for Mathurin.
Right. I mean, if Mathurin starts, I think that you can at least project a couple more minutes for him. If Chris Duarte starts, you'd certainly project more playing time for him. You would for Brissett as well, although we did just see him start and not play a lot, even including garbage time. But particularly if it's Mathurin or Duarte, I think they start to look a lot more appealing.
All righty. Anything else you want to touch on here for the Pacers?
I don't think so.
Okay. So schedule for the rest of the night, simple. Coming up after this, you get live before lock. It's Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist. They'll take you all the way up until 7 o'clock and give you the bonus half hour. If you're interested in signing up at Stokastic, you're in luck. If you've never signed up with us before, if you're curious about the tools that we have behind our paywall, you can check them out for 5 days for absolutely no cost. Link in the description. You get 5 days of our NBA package. That's going to be our projections, our ownership projections, our boom bust tool. So that's going to show you target score odds, our optimal percentages, leverage scores. You could use our player compare tool. That's going to be 1v1s and 2v2s. You'll see all of that advanced data on that table as well. I know you guys are always asking 1v1s and 2v2s. And then finally, our new lineup generator. You can get up to 20 lineups using that tool. We generate thousands and thousands of lineups for the slate. We get rid of all the ones that we think are just junk out of the gate. And then we let you swap through everything. You don't like it? Click discard. You're on to the next one immediately. If you want to move players around in that lineup, you can do that as well. Get export up to 20 lineups, but this is going to be perfect for anybody that's playing in smaller field contests, 1 entry, 3 entry, that type of stuff. So 5 days free, guys. Can't beat it. All righty then. We're moving it on to the Boston Celtics, and they are 4.5-point dogs in Miami. This one looks a little bit different than it did earlier today. No Marcus Smart, no Jaylen Brown, no Al Horford, no Malcolm Brogdon. That is 4 main cogs of their rotation. Robert Williams is available. We've got Peyton Pritchard, 3,700 at 41% ownership. I should actually see if we have new ownership. That was 29 minutes ago. Okay, so whatever I pulled is correct. Jason Tatum at 10%, which I kind of understand. Big time price tag. Derek White's pulling some ownership. Sam Hauser's pulling some ownership. We got to start, I guess, with Peyton Pritchard. How do you feel about that ownership? It feels a tad high.
I mean, it feels high, but we do also have him with a 32% chance of being optimal. I think the thing that you're going to run into is we're on the, second game of the slate. We've already talked about a wildly popular TJ McConnell that looks really good at point guard. Now you have Peyton Pritchard as one of the most popular value plays at point guard. There's always going to be a lot of really good mid-range and, just high upside point guards. So you do run the risk, especially in larger field tournaments, of, kind of painting yourself into a corner where you just have lineups that are constructed very similarly to everybody else. Because if you're playing a really popular Peyton Pritchard at 3,700 and a really popular TJ McConnell at 6,100, you're just going to have similar amounts of salary left at all these other positions. So one very easy way to be contrarian would be to just be paying up a little bit more for guards today, maybe using value elsewhere. But from a point per dollar standpoint, he looks good here. The playing time for him, is always somewhat concerning, but you got 31 minutes last game. You got 26 the game before. Now you also don't have Jaylen Brown. It's just difficult to see where exactly they're going with if it's not Peyton Pritchard. Like you even got 19 minutes last game for Sam Hauser. So, are they going to just run Justin Jackson a lot? Like, I doubt it. So I think it's just Pritchard should have enough minutes to be useful at 3,700. He's played 213 minutes without Brown or Smart on the floor, 0.81 DraftKings points per minute. Jason Tatum has been on the floor for probably not a ton of those minutes, only 77 of those minutes, but still 0.8 to 0.9 DraftKings points per minute for Pritchard. So, I think if you're expecting around 0.8 fantasy points per minute, even call it like 0.75 because of the matchup, he's likely to play enough minutes to project well here at 3,700.
Yeah, I gave him 30 minutes. I do think that he looks good. I'm a little surprised to see the ownership be as high as it is. So I'm very curious to see what I end up with in the end of the day. You also see Sam Hauser's ownership at 10%. Does that jump out to you at the flat 3K?
Yeah, he's a little more concerning just because I do think he's a little bit more replaceable in terms of rotation minutes than Pritchard is. Like, I think it's more likely that you see Justin Jackson in the rotation playing like similar minutes to Hauser or something like that. Or, Griffin maybe getting some minutes at the 4, or Grant Williams just playing a bunch more than he did yesterday. Like, Williams only played 24 and a half minutes yesterday. I do think you see more minutes for him, most likely. So Hauser concerns me a little bit more, but he's also not a guard, which is nice. He's at 0.76 DraftKings points per minute with Brown and Smart off the floor.
How do you want to handle Tatum?
He looks good if you can get to him. He's played 295 minutes without Brown or Smart, 1.3 DraftKings points per minute, 33% usage rate, 20.5% assist percentage. He's 11-1, though, in a relatively difficult spot against Miami. Only a 107 implied total for Boston, but so much of that offense should go through Tatum that he clearly has a ceiling. The problem I think that I kind of just run into is even if you just assume he goes for that 1.3 fantasy points per minute, that's not particularly good for his price range. You clearly need him to outperform that to really be happy that you rostered him. Whereas you're going to be able to point to some other pay up guys where it's just like, yeah, if they do their normal thing, they're going to look good.
Derek White, 21% owned. I get it. Like they're running out of bodies that are real rotation pieces. Do you find yourself with any interest in Luke Cornett, Justin Jackson, Blake, Kabengele, just like all of the extra pieces that sort of someone probably has to play a bunch?
So not to lump him in with them, but I am interested in Derek White at 5,400 just because he should play a lot of minutes. He's averaged 0.94 DraftKings points per minute without those guys on the floor. We saw him play 26 and a half minutes yesterday, but he did get hurt in the second quarter, lost like 8 minutes before halftime. So I do think you're getting, low to mid 30s from Derek White today, which is going to make him look good. As far as the other guys, I'm not that interested. Blake Griffin started yesterday, still only played 12 minutes. You have Robert Williams, who I assume is basically going to play the Al Horford minutes. I don't really think I need to take chances on Justin Jackson, Blake Griffin, Kabengele, any of those guys. Like if Blake Griffin's starting, maybe, but he's still just, center only at 3K. But I think I'd be more inclined to go to like Grant Williams, but he's also 4,900. So that's a pretty tough sell.
Yeah, I thought Boston was going to look more interesting than they do. And they do in a weird way, but it's like the weirdest pieces of Boston. Like we haven't even mentioned Time Lord. He's a guy at 5,800 today. There's just so much at center as per usual. Robert Williams, thoughts?
5,800, probably pushing 30 minutes, makes him somewhat appealing at no ownership, but you also are just going to have so many good center plays today.
Okay. Anything else you want to touch on for Boston?
No.
Okie doke. We go to the Miami Heat with some interesting things going on. We got about 10% ownership going to Bam, to Hero, to Butler. This is a team that is essentially at full strength right now. 10% ownership, or 1% ownership going to Kyle Lowry at a crisp 4,800. And people are freaking out about that, but I don't know, he's not a really good basketball player at this point anymore in DFS. How are you handling Miami here against a shorthanded Boston team?
So it's kind of an interesting spot. You have seen salaries come down a bit on Miami. So Jimmy Butler was showing up a bit for me at 7,600. He's just somebody that I haven't been able to get to a lot recently because he's been up around 9K, but now that salary has dropped. Bam Adebayo is down to 8,100. You mentioned Lowry down to 4,800. Still not overly interested in Lowry, given that, for one, he hasn't been all that good this year. And two, we haven't seen his playing time return to normal as of yet. And when he returned from his injury, Eric Spoelstra did stay. They were not going to be playing him the minutes that they were before. He didn't specify how long that statement will hold true for. NBA coaches, we know, typically have a tendency to say things like that, and then 3 or 4 games later, they're playing 40 minutes. But we haven't seen that yet. We have seen Oladipo playing more. So for me, I think it's Butler, Adebayo, a $6,800 Hero is interesting. Those are the 3 guys that I'm most likely to get to from Miami.
Yeah, I have the most of anybody I have is Butler. I'm getting about 2x the field right now. Works for me. Hero, I'm basically neutral on. I have some shares of Kyle Lowry. That $4,800 price tag is appealing, but if he's only going to play like 31 minutes a game, it's not as appealing. I don't even know if he gets to 31. So had been out for a while, missing a lot of time. So I don't have much else to say here for Miami. They kind of just look like they always do.
Yeah, one, I guess, positive I would say is we did see Tyler Hero get back to 36 minutes last game. He had been playing huge minutes prior to his injury. Then when he came back, he was playing like 32. So certainly good to see that playing time increase while his salary is falling.
Next game up, very easy to talk about. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 3.5-point favorites in New York, 220 total. Cavs have everybody back. Donovan Mitchell had missed the previous 3 games, so he steps back into the rotation. They also got Dean Wade back while Mitchell was out. Highest owned guy on the DraftKings side is Evan Mobley at 4%. Gets a little bit higher on the FanDuel end, but I can't imagine wanting to get to this game with any sort of priority. By all means, give me shares of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen. Otherwise, I will be nowhere near this one.
Yeah, not a very appealing game to get to. Kevin Love showing up for me a little bit right now. I'm hoping that changes. It's just that he's 3,600. He projects similarly to Jalen Smith, and he's getting like half the ownership. So he's showing up a bit for me, but you can't ignore that he has certainly been playing worse since coming back from his injury. It's pretty clearly affected him. But still, 18 and a half minutes last game. That's kind of like the dream scenario for Jalen Smith. So I don't mind getting to him at low ownership and just hoping for the best, but also would prefer to just not have to get to him at all. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, all 4 of those guys, like you're not upset about getting to them, but it's a pretty unappealing game. There's just going to be a lot of guys that look better.
Yeah. I wish I had more to add here for Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody that likes narratives, you have Donovan Mitchell in the Garden, but that's not going to get it done for me.
If Donovan Mitchell wanted to put up big points in the Garden, he would have went to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Then we go to the Knicks. Talking about the Knicks is generally pretty easy. We do have the Q tag on Emmanuel quickly. He did miss Sunday's game, which is relatively important. This side of the game is way more interesting to me. We have single-digit ownership going to the Knicks across the board, assuming quickly is in. I'm a little bit more interested in an 8K Jalen Brunson at 9% ownership. We've got $3,900 power forward center Jericho Sims at 9% ownership. I'm a little surprised by that one, given what we're seeing on some of these other guys. What are you seeing when you look at the Knicks?
So we need to see the starting lineup. I assume for now that Jericho Sims remains in the starting lineup. He started last game, played 33 minutes. He's only 3,900 with power forward eligibility. I think you were kind of alluding to it, but I understand there's a $700 price gap, and sometimes, that gap can really be big from 3,900 to 3,200 as opposed to, some other when it's just such a big percentage of 3,200. But you're talking about Jericho Sims being able, projecting for probably like 28, 30 minutes here with the potential to play more at around 0.8, 0.9 fantasy points per minute at less ownership than Jalen Smith. That's just interesting to me if I can get there. Same goes for, Kevin Love at $300 less. If Jericho Sims is starting, I'd prefer getting to Jericho Sims if I can. Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson both look fine. One negative that we did see last game for Julius Randle is that we didn't really get those center minutes that it seemed likely we could or would. That doesn't mean that it won't happen here, but last game you got 33 from Sims, you got about 15 from Hartenstein. You only got, I think it was like a couple minutes. I saw one of the Knicks
they played straight 48. Friday is different.
That's what I thought, but one of the Knicks beat writers tweeted something about Toppin and Randle minutes happening, so it was throwing me off. But assuming that Popcorn Machine's right, they didn't share the floor. So that's kind of the concern with Randle is if him and Toppin are just going to play 48 minutes, typically that's going to mean 37 or 38 for Randle and like 10 for Toppin. But there's going to be some games like you saw a couple games ago where it means 34 or 35 for Randle and you're really in trouble at 10K. The perfect scenario for him would be you get like 52 minutes from them and Randle plays 40, 41 minutes with a few of those coming at center where his rebounding rate's going to increase as well. But we didn't see that last game, so it's more difficult to project it today, whereas it was a pretty fair assumption last game that you would see that.
I love Sims at that ownership if it's real. Like I don't get it given some of the ownership that we've seen the same way that you detailed out like Jalen Smith. It's especially having the power forward eligibility too. It's not like he's center only. Like right. It's even increased flexibility. Yeah. He'd still be a perfectly acceptable play on a day like today. But I mean, that opens up so much additional flexibility for a guy that played 33 minutes on Sunday. And like, I don't think that he played 33 minutes because quickly was out.
Right. And I mean, like you do have to keep in mind, this is an unappealing, slow game. Like you can't feel that good about Sims, but he's still overall this year at 0.86 DraftKings points per minute. Even if you want to knock that a bit for, the matchup, and I would say playing with the starters, but he has like a 9% usage rate this year. So you shouldn't be overly concerned about him playing with the starters. He's played 164 minutes with Julius Randle on the floor, 0.86 DraftKings points per minute, which is in line with his season average. So he's not the type of guy that should really be taking a hit because he's playing with the starting unit. I think that the only negative here is just that, he's facing Cleveland, but it makes me think that he should still be expected to get around, like 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute.
Andrew Nembhard out. TJ McConnell will remain in the starting lineup.
Cool. More stupid Pacers plays.
Yep. Really excited for those TJ McConnell, Jericho Sims lineups to take me to the promised land. Do you have anything else you want to touch on here for the Knicks?
No.
Okay. And I assume, unless we get a starting lineup, I'm just going to not worry about Indiana. If we do get a starting lineup, I'll circle us back and we can touch on, any sort of intricacies for that. All right. I want to talk PrizePicks. They are the presenting sponsor of this show. You guys can get up to 100% of an instant match deposit bonus, up to $100. So if you put in 75, they're only going to give you 75. But if you put in 100, they will give you another $100 to start it all off. You're picking player props at PrizePicks. You're taking over-unders, put 5 together on one card. You can net up to 10x your entry fee. You don't even have to get all 5. If you get 4, then you're still going to get something back. If you get 3, you still get a little bit back. You could also do up to 6. I don't recommend that as much. Stick to 5 if you can. You can do these across sports as well. NHL, NFL, NBA, college basketball, soccer, golf, tennis, League of Legends, Call of Duty. We see disc golf on there from time to time. Highlight from time to time. If you're a highlight guy, I hope that you're on PrizePicks. Right now, Adam and I are going to look at fantasy scores. It is FanDuel scoring. So we're talking 3-point blocks, 3-point steals, full loss of a point, 4 turnovers. I'm starting with a guy that I have some interest in. What do you want to do here with Miles Turner over under 34.5? I mean, this seems so easy to me. It's insane, but maybe I'm crazy.
Slight over?
Really? Just slight.
And we have him at 35.4.
How many minutes?
I'm on the wrong page for that. Hang on. 28.
Okay. I like Miles Turner quite a bit there, guys. If you think that he's going to play a little bit more than 28 minutes. Who else can we touch on here that I think would be interesting? Jason Tatum playing without literally everybody today. Over under 51.5.
Over.
I have it as neutral, 51.9. So I might have to avoid that one. Opposite side of this game, though. Jimmy Butler, 37.5.
Over.
Same. Let's do one more here. Who would be interesting based on everything we've talked about so far? Jericho Sims. That should be an interesting talking point, right? Over under 20.5.
Over. We have it at 21.4, and I actually think, if anything, we're probably a little low.
Okay. How many minutes do we give Sims?
30.
All right. That works. Well, guys, let's PrizePicks. Again, link in the description. Up to $100 on an instant match deposit bonus. All right. What am I missing here? All right. Let's go ahead and go on to game number 4. Denver Nuggets. Kind of tough to talk about right now. 1-point favorites in New Orleans. 230 total. We don't totally know the status of Denver yet. We did get one piece. Michael Porter Jr. is out. Have you seen this story?
I mean, I know his brother was involved in a drunk driving accident that killed somebody.
Yeah, I don't know when he's going to be back. Nikola Jokic, questionable. Bones Highland, questionable. For right now, I'm treating it as if everybody is in until I can't do that. We've got a bunch of ownership coming into Aaron Gordon, something in the teens for Jokic and Murray. Assuming we get Bruce Brown in, I think he looks fine. How do you want to handle Denver, assuming they're at full strength?
Yeah, so assuming they're at full strength, they still look good. Jamal Murray is just still inexpensive enough that I don't mind getting there at 7K. He's pulling 13% ownership. They have, over the last handful of games when Jokic was in, been staggering his minutes with Jokic as well. So you're still getting around half of Murray's minutes without Jokic on the floor, which is good. Aaron Gordon at 6,700, 20% owned, probably a little higher than he should be, but also, understandable given the position. Could get a few more minutes with Porter out and is in a pretty good spot here against New Orleans. And then Jokic, if he's in, you're always going to be happy getting there. If he's back, I assume he's playing, 33, 34 minutes, and he's as good at producing fantasy points as anybody not named Luka Doncic. So certainly happy to get there. If Jokic were to sit, it makes Murray look better. 1.06 DraftKings points per minute with Jokic on the floor this year, 23.7% usage rate, 1.17 DraftKings points per minute without him on the floor, 30.7% usage rate. Just very,
basically
very
the same.
clearly. Yeah, very, very clearly better without Jokic, and the point per minute production likely to go up over a larger sample without him on the floor, given the 7-point gap in usage. Bump and assist percentage as well. Like you can't forget that part. So yeah, looks good at 7K. Looks like one of the best plays on the slate if Jokic is out.
All right. Are you surprised at the ownership on Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Just feels a little high to me. He doesn't really seem to be a different person no matter who's out there, or he doesn't seem to really revert to Orlando Aaron Gordon or anything. On the opposite side of this one, we've got the Pels. Slowly but surely, we're getting people back. Brandon Ingram is now doubtful. Still no Zion. Najee Marshall, questionable. I think that's important. We kind of know what these guys are doing. We did see Herb Jones get up to 30 minutes on Sunday. No real ownership coming into the Pels in terms of like an individual priority, but it's around 10 for CJ, around 10 for Trey Murphy, around 10 for Herb Jones, around 10 for Joe Val. I guess that all sort of makes sense to me, but $8,200 CJ kind of stands out.
So just to follow up on quick comment in chat. The 0.2 per minute does make up for the ownership. If somebody's playing 34 minutes and they're getting 0.2 fantasy points per minute more, that's like 7 points on their projection. And then you also probably, over a larger sample, that gap's actually bigger. So it does make up for the ownership difference. As far as New Orleans, I don't think that there's a ton to like. Trey Murphy leading the way at 10%. McCollum's at 8%. Joe Val's at 10. I think any of those guys are reasonable, but nothing that really stands out as a priority on the slate.
Yeah, I'm getting to a little bit more CJ, which I'm not mad about in GPPs. Now that price has started to come down, he's not in that high nines or mid nines like it was before. I'm at least a little bit more interested. But if we don't have Najee Marshall, does that open anything up for you? Or is it just sort of muddled still?
You would just expect more minutes for Murphy, Jones, Daniels. Potentially Alvarado.
Sure. And Alvarado's price is sort of already where it needs to be. We are zipping through this slate a little bit faster than we should be, which is going to create an interesting time at the end where we're going to take some questions from chat. And you know what we should do? We should get some likes for this video. 2,200 people in here, 245 likes. Not nearly enough. We're going to need to be up over 500 by the time we get to live before lock. So hit that thumbs up if you can. It's going to help us out a ton. No reason we can't be up over that 350 mark right now. Team Laffy? Oh, yeah?
I guess that's how that's pronounced.
Oh, man. Oh, it's the best. Your Washington Wizards, 7.5-point dogs in Dallas, 226 total. Let's start here. Thoughts on the big Rui Hachimura, Kendrick Nunn trade for your team?
I mean, just doesn't matter. Like, I think it's a good trade for the Lakers simply because of how low the bar is to be a better shooter than the Lakers had. For the Wizards, I'm curious to see what it leads to. Like, that's sort of been what the talking points have been from Washington beat writers. You know, is it opening up? Like, are they confident they're going to get a Kuzma extension done? Are they going to use the picks at the deadline to try and bring something back to replace Rui? It opened the trade exception as well, which could matter. So I don't know. Curious to see what they're going to do. Obviously, I'm not excited about 3 second rounders and Kendrick Nunn. I did see one of my friends on my actual friends from home on Twitter kind of complaining about getting 3 second round picks. And I did point out that a second round pick for the Wizards is just as good as a first round pick, considering that they used their first round picks on Rui, Denny, and Johnny Davis.
Yeah. And if they would just stop drafting second round picks with their first round picks, they'd be fine.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's it. When I saw the trade come through, I was like, whew, that is a whole bag of nothing. I'm really excited. I don't know what the Lakers are doing. That's the more curious part for me, because if they're trying to re-up Rui after this, it kind of eats into their money in a way that I wasn't expecting them to do so. Just kind of weird. Just kind of weird across the board. Do you think Kendrick Nunn's going to be playing?
I don't know. Like, there's a lot of minutes available here with Rui not being here, but I don't know, like, does Will Barton get them? Does Nunn get them? Do they just go to their boy Anthony Gill? Like, I don't know what they're going to do to fill that. I do think Denny Avdia is likely to play more minutes.
Well, let's talk about this team right now, because Denny Avdia seems like he's likely to play more minutes. He is 42% owned on DraftKings at 4K, small forward eligibility. Kuzma's at 30, Bradley Beal's at 15, Daniel Gafford is at 16. A lot of that is because Kristaps Porzingis is out for a bit, and obviously we're filling the Rui minutes. I want to start not at Denny. I want to start with Daniel Gafford, $4,300 center only, 16% owned. What's your expectation on Daniel Gafford's minutes for today?
Like 26-ish.
Okay. That's exactly what I have on. But could very reasonably play 30.
Yeah,
right?
He could play more. Overall, as a starter this year, he's averaged, I believe, like 24, 25, 23. But I think it's likely you get a couple more minutes from him here. It's just that I still don't know what the closing lineup's going to look like. Like they can still so easily close with Porzingis. So, or not with Porzingis. They can close smaller. Like they could go Gibson. They could go Gill.
Yeah. I mean, there's a decent
go,
chance Dallas is playing like 10 minutes of Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5
right
today. So,
right. Yeah. So that's sort of where I'm hesitant, but he definitely could play more minutes. As a result of Porzingis being out like that. If they're closing with a center, it's probably Gafford unless Gibson just for whatever reason finds his way into more minutes.
Let's move the question over then to, are you assuming Deni Avdija is just starting and playing 30 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Are you expecting a lot more than 30 minutes?
Possibly. So earlier in the year when Rui was out, and you also, I think, had Beal out at the time, but you were getting like 40-minute games from Avdija. I certainly not going to project that here, but it wouldn't surprise me if he just plays a lot. One other talking point that the Washington beat writers have brought up, which makes sense, is they're going to be forced to make the same decision on Avdija that they were trying to make on Rui this year when they didn't get his extension done by the deadline. So it kind of makes sense when you have opportunities to just be giving Avdija more minutes and trying to figure out exactly what you have here. So, again, like I'm not just going to say, oh, well, I'm moving him from 30 minutes to 36 because I'm sure that's what they're doing. But it does make me think that Avdija's minutes are probably a little bit safer and that he is likely to play a bit more than that. And he's just cheap enough, at around 0.85, 0.9 DraftKings points per minute. He looks like a really good value.
Am I crazy for having some interest in Corey Kispert today?
I mean, other than the fact that he sucks, but like,
sure.
I get what you're saying because so if you look at their last game, they played the 21st against Orlando. Rui played 30 minutes. Porzingis played 23. So you have 53 minutes there that need to be filled up. Taj Gibson played in the second half after Porzingis got hurt. He ended up playing like 13 minutes. But you still need to soak up the rest of those minutes with some combination of Avdija, Kispert, and then whoever of Anthony Gill or Barton or Kendrick Nunn. So
like I gave Kispert 25 minutes. To me, that becomes interesting at 3,100, even though he is utter ass in DFS.
Right. And this is assuming Avdija starts too. Like if Kispert starts in place of Avdija, you could still get like 28 to 30 minutes from Avdija, but it would increase the chances that Kispert's getting like 30 minutes. If you're bringing Kispert off the bench and starting Avdija, then I feel better about Avdija's playing time, but it's going to make Kispert a hell of a lot lower owned, although he is also a much worse point per minute guy.
Among active players, Corey Kispert ranks 7th worst in terms of FanDuel points per minute in my model, behind the illustrious PJ Tucker, who is starting to separate from the field, which I didn't think that you could do. Wes Matthews, who isn't exactly active right now. Reggie Bullock, Caleb Houston, Austin Rivers, Max Christie, and then Corey Kispert. Yikes. I think we're both on the same page here on Kuzma, right? No Porzingis here. Price tag works. Could potentially be the 5 for multiple minutes if you need it against a team without a center, generally speaking.
Yeah. And his price tags come down as well. So you're likely to get a bunch of minutes from him. You're likely to get at least somewhat of an increase in production without him. Overall this year without Porzingis on the floor, Kuzma's at 1.14 DraftKings points per minute, 30.4% usage rate, about a 20% assist percentage. If you put Beal on the floor with Porzingis off, only 99 minutes, but still about a 28% usage rate, 15.5% assist percentage, rebounding percentage is at about 12% for Kuzma. So at worst, you're just talking about a $7,900 guy that's likely to play mid-30s in minutes, but you're probably also going to see an uptick in rebounding. You're probably also going to see somewhat of an uptick in usage.
How are you handling the Monty Morris, DeLon Wright split?
I assume it's going to be like 28-ish for Morris and 18 to 20 for DeLon Wright. Last game we got 24 from Wright, but that was also like 220 of garbage time. Morris played 24. If that game was competitive, I think you're probably getting like 26, 22. I expect it to be somewhere in that range. Is
there anybody else that we should be touching on here? Do you anticipate getting any Anthony Gill or Taj? Does Jordan Goodwin get his way back in here?
Oh, I totally forgot about him, but that's another one that certainly could just find his way into the rotation. There is speculation too that he's moving Rui's contract was in part so that they can guarantee Jordan Goodwin's deal. But probably not enough to matter for DFS. We didn't specifically mention Beal. He's 7,300, pulling 15% ownership. Playing without Porzingis this year. He's played 182 minutes, 1.24 DraftKings points per minute, nearly a 30% usage rate. He is shooting guard only, which makes it kind of tough to prioritize him, but I think he's a little bit cheaper than he should be for Porzingis being out.
It is weird that we just talked about every single active body for the Wizards except for Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
That's the story of Bradley Beal at this point now.
Right. Ryan Colucci asked if Wright and Morris been playing alongside each other. They were when Beal was out. They could today. That is like another path that this rotation could take as far as soaking up those extra minutes. Like if you get some Monte Morris alongside DeLon Wright with Bradley Beal at the 3, there's no reason they cannot do that against this team. But previously when they were playing next to each other, it was when Beal was out.
Not to step on you here, but that first game that Beal came back, they played 4.5 minutes alongside of each other this past Wednesday.
Yeah, so certainly could see it here.
I gave him 2.
Yeah, I'm not confident enough in expecting it that I'm going to be like jamming in a $4,200 Wright or a $5K Morris, but it's certainly, I guess one of the more reasonable paths that you could see this rotation take to try and make up those early minutes.
And then we go to Dallas. I legitimately have no idea how to talk about this team today. This is going to be fun. So no Christian Wood, no Maxi Kleber. This is a team with no centers, and somehow JaVale McGee still can't get on the floor. So I can't imagine how much they're regretting that contract. We've got 30% ownership going to 12-6 Luka, and I don't even think that's crazy. I have significantly more. Not the first time I've said that recently. Dinwiddie and Josh Green are the 2 guys in double digits here. I think our ownership is insane for the Mavs today. They played basically 7 guys on Sunday, and for all intents and purposes, 7 guys on Friday as well with no Christian Wood. I like all of Dallas if they're low owned in GPPs to a degree on every one of these guys.
Yeah, I'll say kind of. The problem is that outside of Luka, nobody really does much of anything. But 31% ownership coming into Luka on DraftKings. Certainly happy to get there, even at 12-6. He's going to be easier to get to. Actually, I don't know. I was going to say he was going to be easier to get to if Jokic gets ruled out. But if Jokic gets ruled out, you're just getting another really, really, really good mid-range guard in Jamal Murray. So it might actually not make it any easier. But either way, getting to Luka is going to look really good. In the crunch I did before the show, I was getting well more than the field. So certainly happy to get there. We know that he is the best fantasy option when you factor in playing time as well. And you're just getting, 38 to 40 or more minutes from him. Good spot as well. Spencer Dinwiddie playing big minutes and has been for a while. Now without Christian Wood, though, you should get a little bit of a bump in his production. He was in a situation where he's playing more minutes, but producing at a much, much lower rate because so many of his minutes were coming with Luka and Wood on the floor. Now you have Tim Hardaway out there, who is a relatively high usage guy in the context of the Mavericks, but he's not Christian Wood. So you should get a little bit more from Spencer Dinwiddie. He's pulling the 3rd most ownership on the team. Josh Green at 3,100, pulling the 2nd most. Not a good point per minute guy, but he's coming off of a game where he played 29 minutes. There are a ton of minutes available for him. Prior to his injury, he had very firmly worked his way into that rotation, basically ahead of Reggie Bullock for a while. Last game, he got 32 from Bullock, who is also now firmly in the rotation because of injuries. But I think it's just, even though Josh Green's not a good point per minute guy, you can feel relatively good about his playing time just because that this guy had carved out a meaningful role in this rotation, even when he had competition for minutes. So it makes it pretty unlikely that those minutes are going to disappear now that they're shorthanded.
Thoughts on the $4,200 Dorian Finney-Smith?
It's Dorian Finney-Smith. He's going to play a bunch of minutes.
He's their center.
Yeah, he's going to play a bunch of minutes. He's overall this year a 0.6 DraftKings point per minute guy. I want to see what he's done, how much it's changed his rates if you take the other centers off. So if you take off Dwight Powell, Christian Wood, and McGee, obviously we're expecting Powell to start, but it's likely that Finney-Smith closes. That's what we saw last game at least, and you have a pretty good chance of this game going small. If you take all of those guys off the floor, Finney-Smith played 172 minutes. He's still at 0.52 DraftKings points per minute with a 6% rebounding percentage.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but soaking up the minutes.
Yeah, the minutes are there. It's just a matter of Luka just drains stats from everybody.
Yeah. Dwight Powell, 3,600. By all accounts, the only center that they're willing to give minutes, depending on what you want to call Laffy.
Yeah. revenge spot for Lofty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Powell, he's cheap and pulling 5% ownership. It's not really the kind of guy that I want to use a center spot on. The bull case for him, I guess, is like he plays well and you get a closing lineup where Powell's at center and Daniel Gafford's at center on the other side. And suddenly you have 28 minutes from Dwight Powell and he looks good. But I think realistically, you kind of have to be projecting him for around 22, which doesn't make him look that good.
22 way. Okay. Played 33 on Friday.
Played 21 on
Sunday.
Yeah, whatever day that was.
Yeah. I don't have a great feel of how to project him. You start running out of people to give minutes to. I don't have a great feel of how many minutes they want Dwight Powell to play. That's the real question to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have him at 24, which I guess is reasonable.
Do you think that they're just going to like unearth, a rotation for Ntilikina, a rotation for Jaden Hardy, and like this is just going to be all about nothing? Or do you think they're going to continue to be ultra concentrated?
I think they're going to continue to be concentrated. That's just what we've seen from them previously. If Ntilikina cracked the rotation, it wouldn't shock me, but I think it's more likely you just end up getting a bunch of minutes from Hardaway, Luka, Dinwiddie, Finney-Smith, Bullock and Green probably approaching 30, and then some combination of Ntilikina, Bertans playing like a total of 6 to 12.
I'm fascinated by Dallas today. I'm going to have more than I want. Like, I don't have a ton. I've got like 10 to 15 on basically everybody, save for Luka, who's just in basically every single thing that I'm doing. Just an interesting team right now. And they get a very nice matchup against your Washington Wizards, who are absolutely awful.
This is true. You
better not get Wembanyama, man.
I mean, there's no way, right?
What do you mean?
I mean, Washington's not going to be able to tank that far.
They can just win the lottery. They're sixth in the lottery right now, man.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Because I know they're also like a game out of the play-in.
Yeah, they are sixth right now on Tankathon. They have a 9% chance of the top pick.
I had no idea it was that good.
Can you imagine him and Porzingis next together? They just hold hands and cross the whole court. Yeah, they are live. Yeah, like nobody's getting to the Houston, Detroit, Charlotte, San Antonio range. Those guys, they got their tank on really quick.
I'm really surprised the person who thought Javon Carter was a good tournament play last night also thinks Wemby's going to be a bust.
Javon Carter smashed last night.
I mean, that's what he was saying. None of the 150 guys played him, even though he was a good play.
Yeah,
Wembanyama, the best prospect like ever, is going to bust.
36 fantasy points in 16 minutes for Javon Carter, 2.3 FanDuel points per minute. I wonder why no one played him in 16 minutes. I'm gonna sim the lottery once on Tankathon. If the Wizards win it here, they're gonna win it in real life. Ready? Lottery winner is San Antonio. Would have been fun. Wizards actually dropped a spot, so that feels pretty fitting. Who's the 2023 Johnny Davis? Too soon?
Yeah.
The Charlotte Hornets are 6-point dogs in Phoenix, 227 total. For Charlotte, we actually got news before this show started. Gordon Hayward is out for this one. Cody Martin is doubtful, and we don't know the status yet on LaMelo Ball, which is obviously important for everything that we are doing today. Assuming LaMelo Ball is in, not a lot standing out here for Charlotte, but I do find Jalen McDaniels now a little bit interesting with Hayward out. He's a $5,200 small forward, power forward, probably not going to get a ton of love. If Ball ends up out, I think we can get a little bit more interesting stuff going to a $4,600 Dennis Smith Jr. perhaps. How do you want to handle Charlotte?
A lot's going to depend on LaMelo here. If he's in, I'm not overly interested in anything. Terry Rozier, Jalen McDaniels, Mason Plumlee all look fine. Mark Williams, if you want to do the gamble on a backup center thing at 2% owned, sure. 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy, but obviously risky because he's a backup center and there's no guarantee that he is the backup center today. It can be Nick Richards at any point. But none of those guys are going to look like priorities. If LaMelo is out, Rozier certainly starts to look better at 7,700. He would, I think, be the big beneficiary. Dennis Smith Jr. at 4,600 would start to look a bit better as well.
Barring injury, it's basically impossible for Wembanyama to be a bust.
Right. Like he either ends up being really good or he ends up being like the best player ever.
Yeah. Like he's always going to be at the very least a guy that can space the floor with length, shoot, and protect the rim. Like guys are looking for that kind of guy everywhere. He's like the most evolved. Like he could be like the evolved version of Christian Wood. It's like if Christian Wood were good on defense.
Right.
If your downside is just being Christian Wood, that's still a pretty good career and probably like an average outcome for a number 1 pick.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I will full disclaimer. I don't follow NBA prospects. I am not comparing him to LeBron. Everybody that does is comparing him to LeBron as far as level of prospect.
Yeah. And it's absolutely right. It's the same thing that happens to a degree. He's not playing the same competition that Luka did, but it's to say, like, we can't look at people the same way we used to look at like Skitishvili coming out for the Nuggets in the 2000s. Like Luka was playing against men for years. People should have seen this coming. They didn't. Well, you know, in particular, 2 teams didn't, and it became a problem. Wembanyama has shown his skill set in international ball. It's not as like random as like, oh, there's this random French kid that's really good and tall. It's just not the
like
same
Matisse
thing.
Thybulle coming over.
No, he's exceptional. I can't wait to see him in the NBA. I just pray that he doesn't go to a team that really, really isn't fun to watch. Like, I don't want him to go to the Spurs. Sorry, Ryan, college roommate's a big Spurs fan. Don't, like, it's just not fun if that happens. San Antonio is just not a fun location.
Yeah.
We're obviously cheering for the Pelicans to get it. No. The Pelicans getting it with the Lakers pick is the ultimate like dream scenario. I just want to laugh and laugh and laugh. If Oklahoma City can get in there and somehow get him, it's incredible. Toronto would be fun just from like it creates a really good team fast perspective, but I can't wait. San Antonio is not fun. No one's ever like, hey, I'm going on vacation to San Antonio this week. Never.
And I agree with Cheyenne DeWalt. They said he could be a bust in terms of not living up to his hype. Like if he's a borderline all-star, then he's a bust relative to what people are saying about him. But like when a bust in terms of like not being a good player, barring injury, it's pretty much impossible.
It's just too good of a skill set.
Like he can't come in. He can't come in and just be Kwame Brown.
No, it's impossible. He's going to block shots like crazy. He's going to shoot well because no one can guard him. Like, it's fun. Josh ain't a fan of the churros. Love a churro. I want to be clear here. Do love a churro. Phoenix Suns are going to be without Landry Shamet, Devin Booker, Cam Payne. Josh Okogie is in. And then DeAndre Ayton upgraded from out to doubtful today. I'm hoping that this doesn't become a problem. I think Chris Paul looks great today, given the fact that he was able to play 38 minutes in his return. But the bigger question is, how do you want to handle Bismack Biyombo, who is well on his way to playing some sort of amount of minutes after playing 15 in the first half, finishing with 16?
Yeah, I mean, right now we have Ayton projected out. He's doubtful, like you said. Biyombo projected for 18% ownership. Landale projected for 9%. You're likely to get some sort of a center split from them. Like you said, he played about 15 minutes in the first half, managed to play about 38 seconds and then 31 seconds in the second half, third quarter and fourth quarter, respectively. But that's really the rotation that we've seen from Biyombo as a starter this season. He started 8 games. He's averaged 22.5 minutes per game. But in like all of those games, you've seen him either actually play big minutes, or you've seen him look like he's going to play big minutes and then either get in foul trouble or there be a blowout. 22 minutes, 30 minutes, 18 in a game where he had 5 fouls, 31, 17, 16, 30, and 16 as a starter. Don't know what happened in the 17 and 16 games. I'm guessing there were blowouts, but you've seen plenty of times where he's played substantial first half run and then for one reason or another just doesn't get there down the stretch. It makes me very interested in him in tournaments at 17 to 18% owned, assuming Ayton is out. I'm still interested in Landale as well. Like that volatility is there. And when Biyombo doesn't get full minutes, it goes to Landale, and he's a very good point per minute guy as well. So assuming Ayton's out, I just like both of these value centers, not together, but individually.
Yeah. And for anybody that's wondering about this, like, I don't think Dario Saric was ever going to play a minute at center if it wasn't for the aggressive foul trouble of Biyombo. They basically had Landale go back out and didn't have the opportunity to put anybody else in at center. If Biyombo isn't in aggressive foul trouble, or Landale, I think, picked up 3 as well, I don't think that we're getting any minutes from Dario Saric at center.
Yeah, in the third quarter, Biyombo picked up his foul 38 seconds in, so they went to Landale. He picked up numbers 3, 4, and 5 in 4 minutes and 36 seconds, and so then we got Dario Saric.
Unbelievable. How are you handling the rest of this Phoenix team? Because I think Chris Paul stands out at 7,500 now that we know that he can play big minutes. And the guy that I'm really interested in, $5,100 small forward, power forward, Cameron Johnson, who played 29 and a half minutes on Sunday. His minutes aren't going to suddenly go down now. He's an actual part of this starting rotation. I think the upside is that he plays starter minutes, not just 30.
Yeah, I'm with you. And even if he plays around 30 at 5,100, he looks like a decent play. Pulling 10% ownership, I think he looks good. Because like you said, you could just get a couple more minutes from him, and pretty much every minute he plays at this point is just making him look that much better at his salary because he's already so reasonably priced. 38 minutes from Chris Paul, 7,500, pulling 29% ownership. That looks good. Still playing without Booker, so you get a little bit of a bump there for him. Certainly happy to get there. The only thing sort of working against him is that there are always good guard plays, and you have cheaper guys like McConnell, Pritchard, that people are going to. But certainly happy to get to Chris Paul here. I don't necessarily think he should be getting like twice the ownership of Bradley Beal, for example. That's like the first pivot that comes to mind. But
yeah,
still think he's a very good play. Mikal Bridges should play a ton of minutes as well. His price tag's getting up there to 7,200, but he's just on the floor for enough minutes where he gives you a ceiling.
Any Torrey Craig thoughts?
Not really.
Okay, just just asking. He's not as bad as you think he is when like I always picture Torrey Craig as like a 0.65 guy, and he's just not that guy.
No. Yeah, that's kind of like I said, not at all, because I think he's just like correctly priced, but you're probably getting about 30 minutes. He's just like your standard guy that's going a little bit under owned, but also is still really low probability. Like he's 5 to 6% to be optimal, and he's getting 3% ownership. It's a good contrarian play in tournaments. It's probably not the guy that you want to go into the night saying like, all right, I got 45% Torrey Craig. If he smashes, I'm going to have a good night. Like you probably want to be somewhere in between those two.
There we go. All right, let's close this out. A couple minutes left to go. 456 likes. We can get up over that 500 mark because there are 2,400 of you that haven't done a damn thing about hitting that like button. That kind of bums me out, putting in the good work here, myself and Adam. You get Greg and Eric. I hope you're not saving it for those guys. Why would you want to give them the likes? Give them to us. It's way more fun. Clippers are 5-point favorites in LA, obviously, against the Los Angeles Lakers. Tricky spot there. Don't forget to give that home bonus for the Clippers, or for the Lakers, rather. No Luke Kennard, no John Wall. The minutes on Terrence Mann have been extinguished as of late. 13% owned, $8,600 Paul George is the highest owned guy here for the Clippers. I don't really like anything from the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, I think George is probably a little bit cheaper than he should be. Yep. Even with Kawhi being in, just still pretty inexpensive. In the games that he's played with Kawhi this year, 18 games, 1.22 DraftKings points per minute, just a little bit cheaper than he should be. Kawhi's up to 10-1, which makes him pretty difficult to get to with George in. If you want to take shots at a $5,600 Zubats, I sound like a broken record because I say it every single show, but probably just a bit cheaper than he should be and getting a little bit less ownership than he should be. He has a path to playing 30-plus minutes. He's a good point per minute guy, even when Kawhi and George are in. It drops off a little bit, but you're still talking about typically around a fantasy point per minute. Played 23 minutes last game, but always capable of playing more. Had some foul issues last game, but also just didn't play in the fourth quarter. Don't mind going back to him, in large field tournaments, but nothing that looks like any sort of a priority here. George, I think pretty easily the easiest guy to get to, especially on DraftKings where he has shooting guard, small forward eligibility.
And on the opposite side, we've got the perpetual Q tag on LeBron James. No ownership coming into this Lakers team on DraftKings. LeBron gets the most at 7%. Thomas Bryant, 5,700 at 6%. I got a little bit of interest in Thomas Bryant in GPPs on the off chance that he gets the 33 minutes again, like he got it last time. Not that I'm projecting him for anywhere near there. Do you see anything for the Lakers? Because this feels like, I don't know, what's the opposite of a hammer? Because this doesn't feel like that tonight. You got a joke for that?
I was going to say to ask Katie.
Yeah, that's fair. I was like, man, am I missing like an obvious opposite of a hammer type joke? I see where you're going there. That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I think LeBron looks pretty good. 11-5 if you can get there. But the problem just becomes like you have Luka, you have Jokic, you have Tatum, you have just not going to that price range. So if you get to LeBron, great. Obviously, he's really, really good without Davis, but the price tag's pretty much adjusted as well. Thomas Bryant, I think, is like in that same bucket with Zubats, where if he plays 22 minutes, he's going to suck. If he plays 30, he's going to really help. And going into the game, you kind of have no idea which one it's going to be. But, large field tournament's fine. Probably not somebody I would touch in single entry or 3 max. Pat Bev is really cheap. He also sucks. So there's that. I don't really have much that stands out from the Lakers.
No, it's tricky. Tricky team. Too bad they don't have Rui. That'd really put him over the edge.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
All righty. We got up to 580 likes, so that's a good one. I'm going to leave that super chat for the boys coming in at Live Before Lock because we are over the time. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to PrizePicks for being the sponsor. Don't go anywhere. Greg and Eric coming up next, taking you all the way up to 7 o'clock and a bonus half hour.
Yo, it's that time of week again. Time to induct all you fine people into the Hall of Fame. Give out some free months of Stokastic plus Platinum in the process. Some big winners this past week, so we're about to dive into it. Of course, all you got to do to get involved, get your name up here. Have us do the bragging for you. Get the free month of Stokastic and get inducted into the Hall of Fame right here on the Stokastic YouTube. Download the Stokastic profile picture, stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame, at Stokastic HOF. And get that free month. Just finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. And we got you. Just like, how about Braden V coming in hot? Took down the big one last night. Shout out to all the content you guys and time and effort into doing every day. Love the YouTube vids. $87,000 win. What a way to kick this off. I told you we had some big wins this week. Like Bobby Nissan. This dude's just been crushing through and through. Almost took down 3 GPPs last night. So close, but what a great run. Got to thank Awesemo DFS and all the great tools and staff at Stokastic. If you're not a sub, it's costing you money. And then you see Bobby again. And shout out to Bobby, too, because he's running one lineup across all of the. I mean, look at those entry fees. $102,000 there. Big thanks to Stokastic. Your DFS tools are the best. Thanks to the crew for the great content you guys put out there every day. Let's keep the print fest going. Yeah, Michael Penn certainly did. The Hammer, 333 with a $40,000 win. Best content and projections around. Can't thank you guys enough. It's a huge one. See, it doesn't stop either. One of the best NHL analysts out there. Josh, I hate the fact that I have to, you know what? I'm not even reading this one. I'll let you guys read this to yourselves. It makes me uncomfortable, but the $20,000 win is fantastic for Josh. Check that NHL content out right here on the channel. And how about Elder Breaks? Taking one down in single entry. Daniel Jones let me down, but guess I'm a Hurts fan now, as you should be. $5,300 win there in the fair catch. And then Kevin Driscoll, huge thanks and all the hard work from the Stokastic team. Took down the first solo win of the year. Keep the content coming. What is that, $2 in the $2,000 in the Thursday NBA pick and roll? Beautiful. Love to see that ROI. And D. Spearman, first solo win of the year. We got another one. First solo win of the year. I want to try out my free membership for this NFL playoff weekend. Thank you, guys. Congrats, man. Yeah, quarter jukebox into the $100. Again, massive ROI. And it doesn't matter. If you guys are in a nickel or quarter arcade, as long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here, and you're still getting the free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. Michael Cooney, shout out to the Stokastic crew. Last month, I purchased U-Alls and another, that's a tough one, and another premium sub. Not going to throw shade. Used theirs for 3 weeks. Realized I had Stokastic. Used single game showdown tool. Bam, $834 on the play action. Congrats, man. Glad to have you here. And Scoot, how about Scoot? First time using you guys last night, and just wow, keep it up. Loving it so far. $320 on $11 in entries. And we close it out with these two. Brian Walton, 2nd and 5th in the NBA fadeaway on FanDuel. Glad they actually ran the contest. Thanks for the great content and analysis. Not much turning 31 in the 358, but I will take it. Best content analysis around. Thanks, Brian. And lastly, Andrew Hannon, thanks to all the hard work and people in front of the camera and behind the scenes at Stokastic. Never placed in the top 100 of the mini-max before. Now I have 4. This is crazy. New best for me. 3rd place, $250. Remember, at Stokastic Hall of Fame. Shoot your wins to us with the screenshot. Rock the Stokastic avatar. Get up here and get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum.
Might as well
calling
try.
people dramatic.
Yeah, isn't that irony at its finest? But it's also so true when it's Jordan Klein.
See, it worked just fine. Good thing Jordan
It's trying.
Do it.
It's trying.
Oh, I thought it was on before.
It's trying.
Oh, see, it worked fine. Jordan knows
For my
what he's doing.
people.
After all that, it was Eric's fault.
Stop it. Stop it.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock Show Tuesday. We're sponsored by PrizePicks today, which I know Eric gets excited about. That's why he was really enthusiastic to get that up on the screen behind him. We're about to start the show, and Jordan was like, "Are you guys ready?" And Eric's going, "No, Jordan, fuck off. I don't have PrizePicks on the screen behind me." And then Eric was being all dramatic about it, and we had to wait for him to get it up. But it's up now, so we got a fantastic
I am
show.
not dramatic.
Pretty dramatic. Like the video.
Dramatic.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to PrizePicks, the sponsor of today's show, which can be boldly seen right over Eric's right shoulder. Eric, we got a lot of moving parts going on today in terms of injuries, which, you know, is not all that different from pretty much most NBA slates we're talking about. But in particular, I want to know, do you have any reads on the two most important players that are currently questionable on the injury report? Nikola Jokic, LaMelo Ball. Do you have any leans on whether these guys are going to sit or play?
No.
Okay, I do. I'm fairly
You
confident.
do? Okay, this is exciting because yesterday we hit the nuts with Tyus Jones. You know what's disgusting is that every other Memphis player that I had sucked, and I ended up losing money on this slate.
So the other thing too is everybody assumed that Tyus Jones is going to start and Morant was going to play. Like the owner, like he was
42%. I had 100. I had 98 to be honest. 98%.
But I don't really think the 43% was that much different than what it would have been ahead of like I think people it was way higher than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think that many people were going to be anticipating that Morant was going to sit. Either way, he was good to get to. I ended up having a fairly decent slate last night. The only thing that was a little annoying is I had a bunch of Keegan Murray in the utility spot and swapped him to Tyus Jones. And then Keegan Murray was like considerably better. So
did you watch that first quarter?
No, I was asleep by the time the game started.
It was so. Did you look at anything that happened in that game at all?
I just woke up, checked my
Sacramento. Harrison Barnes hit 5 threes in a row. Keegan Murray hit 3 threes in a row. They shot 12 of 13 from 3 in the first quarter. Sacramento did. I've never in my life seen a first quarter of basketball, and I don't think I ever will again, where it was the walking heat check. I'm dead serious. Sacramento, 12 of 13 from 3. The announcers were laughing. They were just flat out laughing because it was just like Harrison Barnes is chucking it up from 30 and everything was going down. It was one of the wilder box scores and first quarters, beginning of games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up what is the record for most consecutive threes made by a team.
Harrison Barnes missed 1 3-point shot like towards the end of the quarter. Otherwise, it would have been a perfect 3-point quarter. They went 12 for 13.
I can't find that on a quick Google search, but
because I was, of course, sweating the Domantas Sabonis triple-double, which smash. That was fun.
There we go. Pubic hair caught in Eric's throat, but no big deal there whatsoever.
I have my lemon tea. I need it.
Who's your? But we should start with this because Eric, what is that? 5 consecutive nights you've correctly bet on a triple-double.
5 in a row. It's the I'm unconscious. If only my DFS lineups could follow suit.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you have a triple-double pick tonight?
No, you want to do a solo show? I'll let you do a solo show. Go ahead.
I've been
wanting me
to do
unconscious.
a solo show for quite some time.
No, it's fine. I'm not dramatic.
But yeah, you are. Do you have a triple double pick tonight? And is it going to be, are you going to go out on a limb or are you going to go Jokic or Doncic to keep your streak going?
I was going to say, I'm not doing either. I don't have either of them. I do have over 34.5 points for Luka Doncic on the card for all the people over on PrizePicks today.
Yeah, because I was going to say that it's very difficult to predict a triple double on this slate. Like if you want to go Jokic or Doncic, sure, but they also don't have great odds for it. And then beyond that, it's like, who are you taking, right? Would you take Tatum? Probably not. Would you go out and take, I don't even know who else, like, I don't even know else
that's
you
the
consider.
Thing. We don't just force bets. Like there's going to be positive EV bets you can find all the time. And NBA Bet Pro does such a good job of it that I don't even step on those toes at this point in time because it's so accurate and we've back tested it and it's making money. You can sign up for that in the comment section below. I'm dead serious. Not a joke. We have users everywhere that are posting screenshots for this thing. It has been fantastic. Has a PrizePicks attachment, which I use pretty daily now in my process, but I want to throw that out right off the bat. But for me, it's more of just being able to look at assist rates, rebound rates, and the pace-up matchup. Even though Memphis is number one in defensive rating, felt like a good pace-up spot to be getting to Domantas Sabonis. He was north of plus 220. I had him around plus 140, plus 150. It's called value. That's what I'm betting. I'm not betting what I think is going to happen, but I thought it was more likely than plus 225 to plus 235 that it was everywhere.
And none of those, which by the way, totally reasonable to, and I don't think the streak ends because you don't pick one today. It goes on hiatus. And then we come back on tomorrow, Wednesday, and another one comes out. But so I'm fairly confident to bring this full circle. I'm fairly confident Jokic will play today.
Okay.
He participated in shoot around, usually a pretty good indicator. So I think he's going to be good to go. I think LaMelo's fairly likely to sit, mostly because they have listed him as questionable on the injury report for how many times with ankle injuries this year. And it just gets to a point where if you guess he's going to sit, you're right more often than not this year. So I just think it makes more sense to kind of guess he's more likely to not play. I think Jokic will be playing. And then we've got a lot of other guys who are less important on the injury report that we'll be talking about as we go on throughout the slate. So we're going to talk about the Celtics in a little bit, but also we got some super chats that are coming in. And also, if you guys have questions for us in Discord, at me, we'll answer some of those as well. One of the perks for having a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership, you guys could get access to for 5 days by clicking on the link below. No risk to you. Totally free. Get access to our Discord, player projections, ownership projections, our lineup generator, which is a super cool tool where just a few clicks of the button, it's going to generate up to 20 lineups for you that we project to be plus EV that you could upload right into DraftKings and FanDuel from there. Now, your questions. Hippopotamus. Chat's percentage like to viewer ratio will be out 3-point shooting. Get it up.
Yeah.
Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. The next question we have is from, oh no, that's not a question. That's just
it was just disgusting.
Which, what was he discussing?
The response or the super chat? Both?
That was the one you told me to make sure I hit at the top of the show. Which word is in English? Okay, so chats, English, like, English, to, English, viewer, English, ratio, will be out, 3-point shooting. It's all English.
Does not compute. I am Ehrenberg, the robot sent through time to kill Eric.
How did you know?
Trust me, I'm on to you, buddy. It's been a couple years. You're not hiding anymore.
I got to be a little more cautious. Gotta cover some tracks here. All right. So the next super chat, this was somebody joined YouTube. The one after this, here we go. Enzo Boza. Shout out to my boy Lindquist. Look at this again. Popped a bottle to your name at the club last night. Give me an over and an underlock for player props. Thanks again, playa. All right, let's find some props that we like.
Yeah, so I don't always think about things in terms of like, oh, I need to have an over and an under, but one under that I was contemplating was the Julius Randle under rebounds. I think Cleveland, their interior, they're very good. I like Cleveland in this spot, 3.5-point favorites. That front court is just ridiculous. And the Knicks, they're on a little bit of a slide here of late. Big deal not having Mitchell Robinson in the middle. So good from a defensive standpoint here. Julius Randle could run into foul trouble. There's a lot of ways where I think the under kind of projects out well. It's something that pops over at NBA Bet Pro. It's the top play for PrizePicks in beta mode, of course, over on NBA Bet Pro. But then I like the over of 23.5 points for Jalen Brunson. If you're going to beat Cleveland, you're going to beat them from the outside. It's kind of consistently been that way. all season long. Jalen Brunson, he's going to have the usage. He's going to have the opportunity. Just a play that I've been on quite a bit of late. The minutes are absolutely absurd. He's somebody that I'm getting to from a DFS perspective. Very in on Jalen Brunson today.
I'm just checking to see which things are up that I bet earlier, what's changed, what hasn't. So one thing that's still up, Victor Oladipo, over 3.5 assists. He's had 4 more assists in 6 of his last 7 games. But in addition to that, it's plus 130 on the over. And the reason why I think it's more relevant to look at some of the recent sample size for Victor Oladipo is he's healthy for the first time in forever. It's been a couple of years since we actually seen him healthy. And even with the Heat having, a fairly healthy team out there, they still have Oladipo. He's the primary guy off the bench. He's playing extended minutes. He's the go-to guy in the second unit for this team. So I think he's a little bit underpriced right now. We even project for over 4 assists. That's something that I think is a pretty good value, particularly because of the plus money that it has. There was an under that I bet earlier on Derek White, but I don't think it's up anymore. But yeah, the primary one for me is that Oladipo 2.5 assists. So Enzo Boza. I know you only asked Eric specifically, but I pitched in and helped there too.
I love it. I'm adding it to a prize pick as we speak. If it's
Ace
there.
of Spade, DeRozan, Mitchell, Vooch, or Garland for DK tiers. So those players, 3 of them off again in this one tier.
You understand? DeRozan. I want him to know that when we're talking about tiers, we're literally giving you our raw projection pick. Ownership has to be factored in tiers as well.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know what the ownership's going to be in that.
Totally is. You've played some tiers. I've never really dabbled in tiers.
I did a lot at the beginning of the year. I haven't as much lately. Maybe I should, because I was making a lot of money on it earlier in the year. And then they kind of reduced the size. What happened was they reduced the size of the prize pools, and they were paying out a bigger percentage to first, and I just kind of lost interest in it. But let's see.
The only tiers I'm familiar with are the ones that come down my face.
Oh, yeah. Those are my favorite kind.
You would do some a lot.
But yeah, actually, the contests are back to being decent size, better than they were after a little bit. So maybe I should get back into that. But anyway, the question, just to reiterate the names for Ace of Spade: DeRozan, Mitchell, Vooch, or Garland. Of those players, that is DeRozan for me. And for what it's worth, also because you brought up the ownership there, DeRozan and Vooch have very similar ownership in classic contests, and those are the 2 that I've projected the highest. So with that in mind, I would just go with DeRozan, who I think should be projected the best there.
With you.
The next super chat is from Vargas Mercy. Eric, boy, everybody here with the shout outs for Eric. Deservedly so. He was on the right side of, and him more so than me, really pushing that he was adamant that John Morant was going to be out yesterday, as well as the triple-double call on Domantas Sabonis, which Vargas Mercy is saying, Eric, thanks for the triple-double call. Made a quick 250. There we go. Eric,
let's go.
Shout
outs. Absolutely love it. Congrats, dudes. Congrats.
Running hot on those triple-double picks.
Yeah, it's just not something I'm trying to actively do. It's just showing up in the old rates, and then you bet it. So there you go.
No other super chats right now. I'm going to check Discord to see if we have any questions in there. While I'm doing it, PrizePicks is the sponsor of today's show. The reason you guys should know that is because Eric diligently spent his time putting that graphic up on the screen. Jordan was dying to start the show, and Eric just wouldn't let him. He's like, we're not starting. We are not going to start. I have to get this graphic up on the screen. But the real reason Eric does it is because he knows that when you guys sign up for PrizePicks using our link, you get 1 free month of Stokastic plus Platinum, and he just really wanted to make sure that message was delivered by getting that graphic up on the screen. And as we go on throughout the show, we're going to be looking for some PrizePicks props that we like to help you guys build out your player prop cards. But not only are you going to get 1 free month of Stokastic plus Platinum when you sign up over using our link, you're also going to get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. So lots of different ways that you could be benefiting yourself. As for PrizePicks, is there any one particular prop that stands out to you above the other ones on PrizePicks?
Yeah, I mean, the Luka Doncic, the over of 34.5 points is one I just keep rotating around in my cards. I like to box in certain plays because, again, I'm not a big parlay person, but you kind of are forced into it for the most part. You're getting 2, 3, 4, or 5 player flex cards, power play cards, lots of ways. And now 6, you can go up to 6 and have like a full-on game stack. I've talked about that a couple of times on this show where I think there's going to be some advantageous spots to do that if you can react to news or just guess correctly. just because of the correlation of a close game, perhaps shooting everybody's projection through the moon. But I keep coming back to this 34.5 point number going for Washington. He's going to do everything for this basketball team. He has been doing everything for this basketball team since he set foot over there in Dallas. You continue to have Christian Wood out. That is just such a big upgrade for him offensively. He's already around a 38% usage. It's not like there's a lot of places for that to go, but I think he absolutely smashes the over of it. He's 12-6 in DFS as well. This is a nice way for me, somebody where I can't just jam him when he's 28.8% and my model is pulling him down a little bit, where I'm going to get a little bit under the field there. This is a nice way to kind of leverage that out, where I think the line is too low. And I think from a DFS perspective, it's hard for me to get the 12-6 to be able to pull full freight for him at his current ownership. So a nice way of getting some exposure to Luka through PrizePicks.
All right. So a little while ago, it actually happened right as right as you started talking, Jimmy Butler got ruled out of nowhere.
Oh, seems important.
So it was very funny because you're talking and chat's like, talk about Jimmy Butler. So that was what was on everybody's mind as you're talking about PrizePicks there.
You guys were listening to me again.
So first of all, salute to General Soreness, right? Because we got our guy is Captain Commander is not going to be playing today. The softest man in the NBA. I know he likes to fancy himself a tough guy, but oh no, his back is a little sore today. He was not going to be playing, which, I mean, I think he's actually gone the longest stretch of his career without being ruled out. Yet Jimmy Butler has played every game for 3 weeks. It's something that nobody's ever seen before in the history of the league. 3 weeks in a row without missing a game. He's back on the shelf. We were not expecting this. This is going to change it. By the way, I hope people bet the Victor Oladipo thing I threw out 6 minutes ago. See, this is one of these times too. I should actually feel happy with Jimmy Butler.
Smash.
Because I bet Oladipo early in the day. I give it out as a bet, and then Jimmy Butler doesn't play, and it makes the bet look even better. But let's start looking at the ins and outs of this, because now that there is no Jimmy Butler, who are you going to be liking more from the Heat? I don't even really know what these guys' prices are because they've kind of been afterthoughts until right now.
Heyo, Adebayo. It is going to be Bam Bam. 8,100 for Bam Bam without Jimmy Butler. It's going to get ridiculous. 6,800 for Tyler Hero, playing 38 minutes more than likely in a competitive spot. They were favored by 4.5. That's going to come down. We're going to see them probably in the 3.5, 3 range still, with all the pieces missing on the Boston side. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, those two right off the bat. Your guy, Victor Oladipo, point guard, shooting guard, 5,200. He just thrusts into the conversation for DK. I'm playing only DK today. Those 3 right off the bat look really, really good. I think Kyle Lowry sub 5K. We have a sub 5K Kyle Lowry now, who will play 30-ish minutes. So that's going to be everybody. The answer is everybody in Miami is interesting.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some of these prices, and a lot of guys cheaper than they've been. So I've got the DraftKings prices up in front of me. Now, a lot of the guys are underpriced there. Now, let me look at FanDuel and what's going on over there. We've got Adebayo, a little more expensive. He's $8,700. But one benefit of Adebayo on FanDuel, power forward and center eligible. So we're going to be wanting to get to him. Tyler Hero is going to be a bigger priority on DraftKings than FanDuel. He's $7,400. A lot of these prices are a lot better on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. So, a lot of the prices are more accurate.
Other way
I
around.
should say.
Yeah,
I meant they're more accurate on FanDuel than DraftKings. What I meant by better. So we've got Bam Adebayo's 8,700, Tyler Hero 7,400, Oladipo's up to 61 on FanDuel, Kyle Lowry 59. So I would say a lot of these guys are playable on FanDuel, with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero being the 2 highest priorities, but it's not quite the same as what they are on DraftKings. Like DraftKings, these guys, I presume we get an update, are going to all be massively chalky, and rightfully so. They're just way underpriced. We've gotten to this scenario where the Heat have been uncharacteristically healthy. So everybody's been priced down, and now all of a sudden somebody's out. So FanDuel is kind of already pricing them based on some of the other players being out. DraftKings, I'm just going to get a ton of exposure here.
Going to be absurd. It's going to be absurd. What do you make of Bam Adebayo's assist rate this year as opposed to in years past with Jimmy Butler out? Is that just a product of Tyler Hero being in the starting lineup and playing way more minutes?
I think it has a lot to do with Kyle Lowry as well, because
that too. That's true.
Because last year we saw a pretty significant decrease in assists for Bam Adebayo, whereas it was something the year before I think he peaked in. So let me pull up
Because I'm plugging in rates with Jimmy Butler out as I'm just kind of transferring over to the spreadsheet. 18.4% assist rate with Jimmy Butler off the floor for Bam, 724 minutes. You're right. Kyle Lowry, I didn't scroll down far enough. 24.5% assist rate. Tyler Hero, 25.3%. Tyler Hero is the first guy that I transferred all the numbers for. I'm just going down strictly by salary. But yeah, the Bam thing to me is very, very strange because that was one of the main facets and one of the main reasons that I always jammed him in these spots. I mean, he's still a fantastic play, don't get me wrong, but I'm just nervous that he's going to be the guy who gets all of the ownership and all the land. Tyler Hero, it's impossible for me to get away from it. But center, there's always a case for maybe getting away from a chalky center. There's foul trouble. There's opportunity for backups to see extra minutes. You have Jokic that is just a stud you want to get to on the slate if he ends up playing without Michael Porter Jr. I have a lot of interest in trying to get different at center. So Bam's the one guy, as I'm just updating things, first run through, that it's like if he ends up crazy, like we're talking over 50%, I might have a little bit of pause.
Yeah, so just also on those Bam numbers, this is why I think it's really Kyle Lowry that's affecting the assists more than anything else on the team. So 2019, 5.1 assists per game for Bam Adebayo. 2020, 5.4. Last year, 2021, they signed Kyle Lowry in the offseason. He goes from averaging 5.4 assists per game to 3.4, and this year it's at 3. I really think it's more than anything, just a Kyle Lowry having the ball in his hands more. So, I mean, he's still because we still see an uptick in rates for him without Jimmy Butler, more usage and whatnot for him. So, yeah, I like getting to Bam Adebayo, and he was somebody I was going to have a little bit of exposure to anyway, just because of where he was priced at.
Yeah, the big bump, though, for me, so Bam, 1.28 DraftKings points per minute with Jimmy Butler off the floor, Tyler Hero, 1.19. And just the positional aspect of Tyler Hero, you can play him at 4 different spots on DraftKings.com, depending on how your lineups pan out. Like, that is a little bit more versatile than a guy like Bam. You can only play a center in 2 spots. So there you go. More opportunity for Tyler to show up in lineups. That's always factored into, like, ownership. I definitely am. I get how that works, but, like, I'm just saying he's the most expensive of everybody. So it's just something that I'm considering. But no doubt about it, he's a fantastic play. It's just an ownership thing.
And we just got some other additional news. Najee Marshall has been ruled out. He was listed as questionable on the injury report. Now, I don't know that there's any one player who is all of a sudden like a smash play from the Pelicans or anything like that, but help CJ McCollum a little bit. Jonas Valanciunas could play a couple extra minutes or two, especially because of the matchup against Nikola Jokic. But is this anything that's going to change your lineups in any kind of significant way?
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of minutes to replace. He's been playing mid-30s minutes for quite a while here. I think the first person, just because of the positionality, Herbert Jones, he's somebody who's going to play low 30s minutes as is. Maybe he sees even a little bit more of a bump there. Not your knockdown shooter. We know he's more of defensive minded, but he's 4,300 on DraftKings. Jose Alvarado is kind of rotates in. My guy, Trey Murphy, he's at 5,100. That's a little bit uncomfortable. More of like you need to see the usage there. And the usage has been really, really down for him this year compared to what I expected it to be. He's out there to score, but yet still doesn't have routinely games where he gets to around a 20% usage. So I think it's going to be Herb Jones. Dyson Daniels kind of jumps into a couple lineups for me. And then CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas were already good plays.
Yeah, and this still helps them a little bit. Because I'm just kind of looking through this team a little bit now. Dyson Daniels comes into play for me. Wouldn't have played him before. Right. I think the one that I'm going to end up getting to the most, so you mentioned before, Herb Jones, is the one who we could just expect to play more minutes now, and is fairly cheap as well. His price point is $4,300 over on DraftKings. The FanDuel price for Herb Jones is at $5,500, so a little more expensive there. But keep in mind, a lot of defensive stats for Herb Jones, and the FanDuel scoring definitely benefits him. So I think that makes him worth playing even with the increased salary over on FanDuel. So Herb Jones benefits, definitely a little bit more favorable on DraftKings because of the salary difference, but still somebody worth getting to over on FanDuel. Is there anything else you want to bring up from the Pelicans? If not, we could talk about the Celtics situation.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, Jose Alvarado maybe a little bit at 4,800. Maybe he walks into a couple minutes. It's just a lot of minutes. Najee Marshall routinely has been playing mid-30s minutes. So it's not one of those spots where you're losing a guy who is like a mid-20s, late 20s type minutes. This is a lot of minutes that are going to go around to other guys. And you could see Devontae Graham walk into some. You could see, in some of like the smaller lineups where they play Larry Nance at the 5. You have opportunities for things to change. I also think it gives me a little bit more interest in Jonas Valanciunas because offensively, maybe they just want to have him on the floor a little bit more. I always try to talk myself into Jonas Valanciunas getting more minutes because the rebound rate, he's just so guaranteed for a double-double if he's playing like 26, 28 minutes on any given slate. So there's a built-in floor. He's sub 7K. Maybe I give a tiny bit of a boost to him as well, but primarily the wings, that makes a lot of sense. Trey Murphy, but Herbert Jones, the price, that's still the main target. Dyson Daniels a little bit.
Got some super chats to answer and questions in the Discord channel. First, Corey Shea. Greg is the man too. Thank you. Appreciate you, Corey.
I disagree, but it is what it is. It's all right. I was kind of enjoying this love fest going for me. It's about time people put some respect on that name.
Yeah, well, I definitely listen more fear. Jimmy Butler still refuses to fight me. Anyway, Greg is the man too. Top DK players, 3,600 and down. Let's see, who am I getting to right now? That's $3,600 or less.
We're going down in an earlier round, and Sugar, we're going down swinging. I'll be your number one with a bullet. Loaded God Complex, cock it and pull it.
3,600 and less. Bismack Biyombo is one. I'm going to pretend you didn't say anything.
I have a ton of Bismack Biyombo.
Do you have any concerns, by the way, about...
Sure do. But it was a back-to-back last time. Can I throw that out there? So he played 30 minutes and played awesome. Go ahead.
Oh, so no, I was saying, do you have any concern about Ayton playing? Ayton was listed as out and was upgraded to doubtful this afternoon. So obviously I still think he's more likely to sit than play. There was a part of me that goes, it makes me a little uncomfortable when somebody's upgraded from out to doubtful.
Yeah, it's not the same as getting out to questionable, at least. I think it's still probably like a 10% chance he plays. If I had to put a number on it just off the top of my head, it was kind of a weird report to see. I'm with you. It was a very strange piece of news because it's like, why wouldn't he just be ruled out? Because doubtful is near being out. But in the event that he ends up playing, I still think that there's ways to get off of some Bismack Biyombo. You do have Charlotte there within that same game with no Gordon Hayward, possibly no LaMelo Ball. News that's willing to break in that game that you could probably turn Biyombo into something else. But I'm right now feeling pretty good. Bismack Biyombo was on a back-to-back. They ended up going more Sarge. The game got out of hand so quickly, so early, and you had foul trouble for Mr. Bismack. So a lot of things that went wrong for him. And now I'm getting him at 15%. This is just like a get way over the field kind of spot on Bismack for me.
Yeah, I'm playing a bunch of Bismack Biyombo too. I just bring up, I had a little bit of uncertainty when I was looking at my lineups for like, it kind of makes me uncomfortable. But yeah, I mean, if something was to change, I don't think we'd have too much issue swapping off him. I think the guy I'd be most apt to swap to would be Dwight Powell, who's priced similarly and also plays in the game that's only 30 minutes earlier. So if we were to find out at 8 p.m. Eastern time, Ayton's playing, I think a lot of my Biyombo exposure would just be going over to Dwight Powell. But is there anybody else $3,600 or less that you like getting to?
Not really. It's pretty gross down here. And now we have heat value that I'm starting to see just infiltrate my lineups at a ungodly rate. I don't have another play outside of the possibility with that news of Jackson Hayes maybe being somebody that gets more minutes. 3,200 for him. I think that's about the only other play that I even want to dabble with down here.
Next super chat we have is from Ace of Spade. The only one I have significant exposure to is Biyombo right now.
Same.
Ace of Spade, Kuzma, George, or Bam for DK. I'm fairly sure that's Bam for me now.
Yeah, it's going to be Bam. But again, I am paying very close attention to what the ownership becomes because center you can get away with finding deviations. Like you can find ways you can deviate off the given path with a certain player. There are going to be good lineups with Bam in it. There are going to be bad lineups with Bam in it. Don't make the bad lineups just have lower owned plays around them.
Yeah, I'm going to refresh our ownership to see if we've gotten a run of that, accounting for some of the recent news. Not quite yet. When we do, we'll do an ownership check and see where everything ended up shaking out. Let's look at Discord because I know we had some Discord questions to answer that came through. And I'll go back to
Bismack is a fish play. Okay. Elindy4, you can send me a head-to-head. I'll take it on DK.
Well, we'll definitely feel that way if we end up seeing Ayton playing. But
well,
no,
I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play him in cash. But I'm just saying that if you think you're better at DFS, go ahead. You can fire it my way.
Biyombo also isn't all that popular. At least in our last ownership update, he was 15% on DraftKings, 17% on FanDuel.
That's the point. He's not popular.
It's not like we're looking at some massive chalk Bismack Biyombo.
Yeah, and Greg and I usually, like 99.999% of the time, don't talk about our process, and then we kind of find our ways onto some similar plays. So right now at the center position, he's my highest owned center. He's a great play for tournaments.
We have an interesting question here from our guy Hero. Hero wants to know, is Butler being out? Oh, no, sorry. This is from Gangrene. I'm mixing up my names and questions here. Gangrene wants to know, is Butler being out better for Tatum? Maybe to a small extent. I know there's a bunch of guys out for Boston. I still find it a little hard to pay up for Tatum just because of the opportunity cost. He's now at a point where he's the same price as LeBron, Jokic, and a little bit less expensive than Doncic. I'd rather pay up for Jokic, spend the $500, or get all the way up to Doncic than to Tatum. I do think you make a case that helps him a little bit. There's a lot of guys out for Boston, so maybe I'm just wrong on this, but do you project Tatum comparably to somebody like Jokic for today?
No, not comparably. Luka is by a landslide. The guy I project out. I have him projected for 69.5 fantasy points on DraftKings. You know how stupid that is to have somebody for almost 70? That's like the last time I remember projecting somebody for almost 70 was Houston with James Harden without Chris Paul. Like, it's been a hot second since somebody was sitting around 70. Russell Westbrook had a couple of moments in a Washington Wizards uniform where I thought it was a chance that you could get up to some of those numbers, or maybe the year before it was for Russell Westbrook. But either way, Luka at 70 is just can't miss. You're going to get yourself to a little bit, but his tag is what gets me away from it. And the positionality shows up for Jason Tatum. He's 11-1. It looks a little bit uncomfortable for people to pay him to pay that number, but you have point guard. I have a lot of tournament point guards I like. Center for Jokic. I have a lot of tournament centers that I like that are way cheaper. Tatum, there aren't a lot of guys like not Anthony Davis. LeBron James at 11.5. He's 400 more. And I do project Tatum for 3 more fantasy points than him. For me, it's just like a positional thing where same thing as yesterday. I played a ton of Tatum. I don't regret it. He was maybe a little bit more popular than I was hoping for, nearly 30%, like in the $15 on DK. But at 11-1, I think that's getting the ownership away. There's going to be all the opportunity without Jaylen Brown and all the other pieces going for Boston. I like Jason Tatum. I am well over the field again today.
Yeah, and here's the other issue I would say. So we're going to be on opposite sides of this when it comes to Tatum. His numbers are good with Smart, Brown, Brogdon off the court, but it doesn't like blow you away. So with those guys off the court, 31% usage rate, 51.5 DraftKings points per 36 minutes, 47.5 FanDuel points per 36 minutes. He's so close in salary now to the guys like he's actually more expensive than LeBron over on FanDuel. DraftKings, like I said, he's only $500 less expensive than Jokic. He's $1,500 less expensive than Luka. So I just prefer getting to those other guys over Tatum. And, maybe I'm wrong for that. Maybe that'll end up being the wrong side of it at the end of the day. But I just think he's already priced not only probably where he should be, but probably higher than where he should be. And he has the same ownership as Jokic as well.
I'm not arguing that. So I think we're saying different things, but we're saying the same thing. I still project Jokic for more. I still project Luka for a lot more. But if you go to the forward position, there's just nobody that I feel all that good about. I have a little bit of Julius Randle. None of these guys are pulling any ownership because it's just turned into a complete punt position. But TJ McConnell at the guard spot, kind of a can't miss situation. We have Bam Adebayo, depending on what the ownership is, kind of a can't miss center play. You have Tyler Hero at shooting guard. For me, if you just group out forward and you look at the raw points, like just the raw points for the guys, LeBron James is 400 more, and I project Tatum for 3 more fantasy points. Randall, I have him 10 fantasy points away from Jason Tatum. It's just so hard to make up those points if Jason Tatum does have a ceiling game. Like, if you have a ceiling game from Jokic and a ceiling game from Tatum, the ceiling game from Tatum can still be more valuable depending on how many good plays there are at guard and center.
And I mean, there are chalky forwards that I think are in pretty good spots, like most notably Denny Avdija and Kyle Kuzma. Like, I think these are really good but chalky plays to get to it forward because there's no Kristaps Porzingis for the Wizards. He's expected to miss, at least a couple weeks or so. And these guys just aren't priced for his absence. And then also Bradley Beal has been, not himself this year. So those are two pieces of chalk plays that I like getting to. I'm primarily paying up for Luka today and then Jokic to a lesser extent. But that's kind of where I'm going with my exposure right now. And then also, once again, Tatum is projected for 12% ownership on DraftKings. So it's not like he's somebody who's unowned or anything like that. If he was 5% or something like that, maybe it'd be different for me. But I mean, where he is right now, it's 11-1's a big price tag for him.
I do not disagree with that. It's a big price tag. I think the opportunity is there for a ceiling spot. No Jimmy Butler, maybe a tiny upgrade. I don't think about the one-on-one D all that much, but Jason Tatum at 11-1, not arguing that, just arguing positionality.
Fair enough. We've got T. Lee had a question for us about the Heat, but I think we've talked about them at this point. The next question is from Lucky. Max number of Heat players that were have in any one lineup today.
It's so ironic. That's the question. I was just toying with whether I wanted to set a cap on 3. I think I do, because it's not like they're 3K, 4K pieces. Everybody's expensive. There's going to be a lot of opportunity. Don't get me wrong, but do I want to extend it to 4? Do I want to have Hero, Adebayo, Oladipo, and Lowry show up in the same lineups? I don't think I do.
Oh, we just got an ownership update, by the way.
Oh, good. That's what I was waiting for.
Where did the Jordan? Would you mind throwing the ownership up on the screen? Let's give this a look.
Give the people a freebie. That's good.
And if you guys want even more free access to our tools, we talked about PrizePicks, sponsored the show, but then we also got BetMGM. We sign up over at BetMGM because it's possible. Like, I live in New Jersey. I don't have access to PrizePicks. I do to BetMGM. And that could be the case for a lot of you guys. You might have access to one of these and not the other, but we do have our free offers with both of them. So if you sign up at PrizePicks using our link, you get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. But if you sign up at BetMGM using our link, you get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And one of the things that comes with is our ownership projections, which we are going to dig into right now with the Heat players who are not nearly as popular as I thought they were going to be. So we have
Jokic in, Highland out.
All right, cool. So I don't have to change anything. I kind of thought
Jokic on track to play was the exact vernacular.
Makes sense.
Yep.
So I'm looking at DraftKings right now. Here's the projected ownership for the Heat. Tyler Hero. Oh, we just got to run. One sec. Let me. Okay. Yeah, never mind. Lee just messaged me that some of it's going to be a little bit off on the Heat because Jimmy Butler's still in the ownership projection. So
okay.
Circle back on this in a little bit.
There's only one game that locks. Make sure for that Indiana and Chicago game, regardless of anything, TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin, Buddy Hield, 3 pieces from the Pacers. And Miles Turner, somebody that's also showing up. Like, the first game is very, very important tonight. And I don't think there's any drastic pending news coming up later outside of the Charlotte situation and Phoenix, perhaps, if you do get Ayton from the clouds, but I think it's pretty unlikely. This is a game you want exposure to the first game of the night. So as you're updating things, if we're updating things over here, just make sure that you get your lineups in with pieces from that one.
So, and let's talk about that then. Who are the pieces? Because McConnell, to me, is a piece you need exposure to, especially with Nembhard out, because the minutes are going to be fairly scarce. That and the totals very high. It's the highest total of the entire slate. It looks like McConnell is going to be playing a big role. So McConnell, I think, is a good piece of chalk to get to. I assume you agree. That's somebody you guys should be playing in cash games today. Outside of him, though, who are the other players from this Pacers Bulls game that you feel we need to get exposure to? If somebody who's building one lineup, who would you say you absolutely need to consider outside of TJ McConnell?
I don't think you have an absolute must-have, but I would want to probably have one of Mathurin, Hield, and Turner. The guy that I'm getting the most of is Buddy Hield, because I think that ceiling at 6,200 could just be nuts, where you know what you're getting. You're getting 17 3-point attempts, or whatever the ridiculous number is. He's had double-digit 3-point attempts multiple times in the last couple of games here without Tyrese Halliburton. That's not an anomaly. Like, that's what he's out there to do. That's what he's always been in the NBA to do. I've never really liked him as a real-life basketball player, but boy, do I have a lot of him, considering he's the one who's a little bit lower owned. I have less Benedict Mathurin, and it's mainly because of the ownership. I don't think he should be somebody at 31%. I would much rather eat negative leverage on like a TJ McConnell, and just kind of have the freebie there for tons of minutes. And I'll live with the result of that. But like Mathurin at 31%, it's a little expensive for my taste. Miles Turner, just another good center play, but Bam's going to start absorbing a lot of it in that next run. Maybe he comes down a little bit and I get to more. And from the Bulls side, you know who to play. It's the core three guys. If you wanted to take shots on Alex Caruso or Patrick Williams, I don't completely hate it. But I think there's just better spots on the slate than both of those two.
No, totally makes sense. And just the flexibility I think we would want at this point. Although I guess we do have a lot of the injury news at this point, now, especially that we got Jokic rolled in. We're still waiting for LaMelo Ball, who's officially listed as questionable. If LaMelo sits, I think it would make sense to, and this isn't going to be totally groundbreaking, but yesterday I thought the price point was about fair on Terry Rozier. I thought you can make case it was a couple $100 too cheap, but he's been priced down on DraftKings since yesterday. He's $7,700 over on DK. If you look at Rozier over on FanDuel, it would help if I spelled his name correctly.
He got blown out. It was so tilting. He had like 34 with like 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and he finished with 34. It was awful.
But he played the fourth quarter, just didn't do anything.
I know, he just did nothing.
Yeah, because he played like 36 minutes. So
yeah, and then he was out at the end of the game because I just started tilting.
Yeah. I don't think that's why they took him out, but it could be.
No. Do you understand? I need all my bets voided. I need all of my DFS lineups recouped because Terry Rozier got blown out.
All right. Well, I hope you email some of your local representatives your opinions. Terry Rozier is $7,700 on DraftKings, and I mean that's too cheap of a price for Rozier if LaMelo doesn't end up sitting. So I do have some exposure to Rozier. Actually, I was getting to more of Rozier before the Heat news. I think I had like 30% Rozier. And then because I got to more of Oladipo, more of Hero, my Rozier exposure ended up coming down to like 15%. I'm running lineups again now, though. But Rozier, once again, another one of these guys, FanDuel's proactively priced some of these players for injury scenarios. Rozier at $8,400 on FanDuel, like that's a decent price point on him. I don't think that there's all that much, or $8,500. I don't think there's a ton of upside in it. There isn't the $7,700 price on DK. So if we see LaMelo officially ruled out, who would you want to get to from Charlotte outside of Rozier?
It's disturbing, but it's somebody who just destroyed me yesterday, and it's PJ Washington. He only played 27 minutes. He ran into crazy foul trouble again, just out of the clouds. He's not somebody who generally gets there, but I mean, he came off of massive games against Houston and Atlanta. Nobody played him. He was like 7%, and I was ecstatic. I had him projected for, what was he yesterday? He was like 6K, and I had him projected for around 38 fantasy points. And you know what he did? He gave me 9. I'm going back to the well. I will be more than happy to play a guy who now went up another $300. Nobody is going to play PJ Washington in these circumstances, but he's routinely been locked into upper 30s minutes. The usage is out of control. Good fantasy producer, generally 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy, a little bit higher without LaMelo Ball, as everybody is. 6,300 is too little for PJ Washington here.
And Lee just messaged me that we now have updated ownership for the Heat. So I'll go back, going to read off these numbers. Jordan, if you'd be so kind. Now, I'm sorry I made you do this before, but it was a false alarm. Now we're going to dive into some of these ownership from the Heat, and then we've got some questions that we'll answer, and a good chance that'll bring us to locks. So on DraftKings, Tyler Hero, by far the most popular. Hero is projected for 36% ownership over on DK. Then we got Bam Adebayo, 19%, Victor Oladipo, 15%, Max Strus, 11%, Kyle Lowry, only 3% projected ownership on DK.
What? No. Please don't tell me that, because then that means I have to jam Kyle Lowry, and I'm not here to do that today.
I like Kyle Lowry quite a bit at 3% projected ownership. And
I have an unbelievable amount of interest of him at 4,800.
Unbelievable.
I just don't want to do it. It's Kyle Lowry.
He's so cheap.
I know he is. God, really? Is he only 3%? He's going to be more than 3%. I'm going to justify this by being like, he's going to be, because there's the times you just know. Oh, man. He is only 3.4%. That is disturbing. Also, Bam only 18.8. I am going to get more than that from Bam.
Yeah, I'm going to be overweight to the field on a lot of these guys. Lowry in particular. Bam not going to be like crazy overweight to in the front court. There's just a lot of guys to get to. But yeah, 3% of Lowry is a crazy, crazy low amount for a guy who's just underpriced at $4,800.
Yeah, Tyler Hero, I'm playing a ton
as well.
Tyler Hero's the best play out of the grouping because the shooting guard eligibility. Victor Oladipo not terribly far. Bam Adebayo at his ownership is way lower than I expected, but God, this Kyle Lowry thing is just painful to be looking at. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to.
The FanDuel ownership for the Heat players, we've got 26% to Hero, 18% to Bam Adebayo, 15% to Caleb Martin, 14% Oladipo, a $5,900 Kyle Lowry, 0.3% owned on FanDuel.
I would have more. I'm not playing FanDuel. Thank God I'm not playing FanDuel at 0.3%. That would get disturbing the way I build lineups.
Yeah, I think Lowry is a very good contrarian option.
Yeah,
and I get there's a lot of point guards to go to today, but in terms of I wouldn't play Lowry in a cash game. Large field tournaments definitely get me some exposure there. So let's hit up these super chats now because we had a bunch of them come in, and I want to make sure that we get all of these answered as quickly as possible. GMAC84, Chris Paul or Jamal Murray for FanDuel GPP, especially with Jokic in right now. Chris Paul.
Is anybody else just insanely tilted by how many minutes Chris Paul played last time out? His first game in over 2 weeks, and he plays 38 minutes against Memphis.
Chris Paul. That's the answer.
I have a ton of that's right. I'm just asking. I want to tilt with somebody. I can't do it on Twitter.
Well, you're gonna have to do it here now. Chris Paul. Yeah, that's it. Chris Paul. Like Eric said, so many minutes for him last game. Corey Shea. What about Sims or Gafford for cheap? Nope. I have some exposure to them, but not more than 10% of either.
I agreed. I have 2% Gafford. That's the only person I know I had in the pool because I thought about taking him out and I just kept him.
The next question we have here, Douglas Bowman. How does Delon Wright and Gafford look in a DK tournament?
I don't want 2 Washington pieces in that game. I don't like it.
There's too much guard value for me to play Delon Wright now.
Yeah, you should have zero interest in him. The only play that really stands out to me is Deni Avdija. Everybody else is just kind of ancillary. And I get Kyle Kuzma is a good play, but he's also in 25% of lineups. And the range of outcomes I want to point to. Kyle Kuzma could definitely go poorly. I know the box score watchers out there are seeing 3 games over 52. Oh my God, I got to jam Kyle Kuzma. There's a lot of good plays who look just like him to me at 7,900.
I don't think there's that many guys who look that much like him.
Oh, Jalen Brunson, my friend. 8K. I'm just telling you, this is Jalen Brunson show today. I'm throwing it out there. He's sub 8%. I'd actually be surprised if he was that. I've got him projected 3 points away. I'm making a pretty aggressive stand on Jalen Brunson over the identical number, I guess it would be. I know they're different positions, but I'm just grouping it by guys in that range. There's a lot of players that I see 7,900. Now we have Terry Rozier, 7,700. We have Bam Adebayo, 8,100. CJ McCollum, 8,200. There's a lot of guys around Kuzma that I project nearly for as many fantasy points as him.
I mean, to me, it's not because he's been good lately, though. It's because Porzingis is out.
I know, but I'm just talking purely projection. Like Bam Adebayo, I project for more fantasy points for 200 more than Kuzma. Jalen Brunson, I project for 2 more fantasy points than Kyle Kuzma. Terry Rozier, if there's no LaMelo Ball, I'm going to project for more fantasy points than Kyle Kuzma. So like, do I want to play a 25% piece of chalk there when Bam sub 20, Jalen sub 10, and Terry Rozier sub 6 right now?
So then I have to ask you, who are and we'll go through all the positions in general. Who are the forwards you're getting the most exposure to then?
Jason Tatum. I knew we were going to get there eventually, and it's just a guy that I'm playing a lot of today. I get it, but he's half the ownership of Kuzma. I think he's got an insane ceiling here. It's more of the positional element as well. But no Jaylen Brown. It feels pretty straightforward to me that I want to get to the other piece from it. Now, I don't know how DraftKings knew coming off of a 46-point fantasy point game that Jaylen Brown was going to sit today. But there they go. They just look what you made them do. It just was ridiculous. But Deni Avdija from that same team, Washington, I think he's pretty unavoidable at a flat 4K. We have both of those Pacers pieces that make some sense to get to here as well. But that's kind of it for me. Max Strus showing up a little bit at flat 4K. You're getting a major ownership discount from Avdia just straight up, but I think having lineups with both of them is just fine.
Yeah, Avdia, another guy who I think is, he's pretty popular, but justifiably so. You and I are on different sides of Kuzma. Upload my lineups, then I'll see who are the other forwards.
I mean, it's not like I have zero Kuzma, but I have 12% of him. I'm less than half the field on Kuzma.
Dyson Daniels, I have a little bit of now that we got confirmation that there's no Najee Marshall. Max Strus, another one who I think is just going under-owned in the absence of Jimmy Butler. So Strus, another Heat player that I think makes a whole lot of sense. Who are the guards you have the most exposure to?
TJ McConnell. He's just smash. Yesterday, I played 0% Peyton Pritchard. Did you see Peyton Pritchard's ownership yesterday?
It was like 20-ish%.
Yeah, 25%, pretty much in everything. It was wild. It was wild to see him that popular. He played 31 minutes, so maybe we got lucky. Maybe we got away with it.
So I only had 5% of Peyton Pritchard, and I think that was the wrong side of it, to be honest. If he played if I knew he was going to play over 30 minutes and in a matchup against the Magic, who generally should be a good matchup, not for the Celtics, apparently. The Celtics get their asses kicked every time they play the Magic. They play the good teams in the NBA. They beat the shit out of them. The Magic, though, for whatever reason, are the kryptonite to the Boston Celtics. But Pritchard, so here's the other thing also. Pritchard is cheap, and with all the guys out for the Celtics, he's certainly good to get to. But there are so many point guards that I'm playing now.
That's what I'm getting at.
TJ McConnell,
that's the Luka problem.
Luka, Tyler Hero, Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry now, Peyton Pritchard, Victor Oladipo, Rozier to a lesser extent. Like, those are my most rostered guards today. I think there's a lot of good guards to get to.
I'm right there with you. I said that's my Luka problem. That's why playing over on PrizePicks is such an important thing for me today. Because with my lineups, I'm finding a hard time getting there. There are too many guards. And, I talk a little bit about Jalen Brunson there. Part of it is that Jalen Brunson's the only guard I can really find who I remotely want to be jamming, who's sub 10%. There's just so many good chalky guards that I'm kind of forcing a couple into play. But Tyler Hero is my second highest owned. He's unavoidable. That news is just a drastic shift. You got to play Tyler Hero. You got to play TJ McConnell. Both of them could really, really end your night immediately if you just are like, oh, I'm going to fade 70% of the field, 60% of the field here in these small field, large field tournaments. And they're just projecting out way too well.
The next super chat here we have is from my filler arc, and 2 minutes to go into lock, guys. So questions, going to answer these as quickly as we can. Mark Williams or take a shot on Isaiah Hartenstein from the Knicks, or any other cheap centers you recommend? Bismack Biyombo.
Bismack Biyombo, my friends. He is he's still showing up for me. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so Biyombo, I think you guys should be playing him. The other question we have here is from Bloopy. Bloopy wants to know, and I hate how Discord does this. If I get a message, the other ones go away. Here we go. Bloopy, FanDuel single entry, 8,300 remaining. Kuz, PG-13, or Levine. Of those guys, I would say Kuzma with just with Porzingis being out and all the other absences and whatever. So I'll ask you, Kuzma, Paul George, or Levine. Of those three,
of those three, it's Kuzma. But it's just because I don't have a lot of the other two.
It's Jay. Hey, Mathurin popping up a negative leverage. What are your and Eric's thoughts? Mathurin kind of ended up being a casualty of all of the Heat value. I had Mathurin before. After I updated for Jimmy Butler being out, I got to a lot less Mathurin.
Yeah, I still have him, but I have 19% of him, and that is not a lot when he's coming in. Well, he's down to 25%. So I just reran one thing. I'm getting my last update in because we updated 8 minutes ago ownership, and yeah, he's still going to show up for me a little bit. Buddy Hield's the guy that I wanted to get to because he's a little bit lower owned, or was at least last run.
The next question we have, no question. We got a super chat from David Milks, but there's no question here, just the super chat. So if you want to ask us a question, throw it into YouTube chat and I'll answer. Oh, here it is. What's a better spot? Williams at the same position and salary. All right. So
I saw Neil Orfield asking about Robert Williams as well. Make sure we double down on that. I just want to get my lineups in before we.
Oh, I don't know.
Get to the
I don't
last
know whether
half
he
hour.
means Mark Williams or Robert Williams.
Yeah, Mark Williams not on this slate for me. I get the idea of playing a backup center anytime. It can be appealing. I also saw somebody bringing up Jericho Sims. I have 0% Jericho Sims. You should have 0% Jericho Sims.
Yeah. Could you just throw in really quickly because there's a lot of Williams. So just saying Williams, kind of hard to know who it is you're talking about. We'll get back to David's question in a second. And the other thing too, is there's only one game that locks at 7. So I think we have a little bit more wiggle room here. Or right, it could be Patrick Williams. The Claw 28 wants to know Cam Johnson or Trey Murphy for DK. I have more of Cam Johnson.
You have Cam Johnson on this slate?
Yeah.
Just
the way his minutes are trending up, I think he plays like 34 minutes today. I don't think there's any restrictions anymore. Booker's out.
Yeah, he's sub 10% on a 7-game slate, and 29 minutes last time out. We know what we're getting. We're trying to spike some 3-point upside from him, which you can definitely get. He's fine. He's just like a low-owned guy who goes in the bucket.
He's before getting hurt, he was $5,700, and now we also have Booker out. He's like $1,000 too cheap.
Okay, maybe I'll take a look at something because I only had him for 27 minutes.
He played. I think that's he played 29 last game, and his minutes have gone up since coming back.
Yeah, that Memphis game was really weird, though. Do you expect? I mean, Chris Paul played 38. Do we expect 38 from Chris Paul?
If the game's competitive, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm going to put him in for 27 minutes. I think that Memphis game was a little bit of an outlier. They had a chance to win a game against a really good basketball team. They were up by a bajillion after the first half. Second half got a little dicey. They brought the starters back in a little bit earlier than I think they normally would want to. I'm going to keep him at 27. I'm still probably not going to get to him. I get your thinking, though. You would think, hey, it's going to continue to trend up. But sometimes you can also see guys where, maybe they played him a little bit more than they wanted to last time out and kind of keep him the same.
I think the biggest thing, the Suns are 24-24. So we're more than halfway through the season. A report came out today that Booker isn't really close to returning. They just have to win games. Yeah. Like, this is a team that's actually in danger of not making the playoffs at this point, and they certainly want to avoid the play-in game. They have to win at some point. So if the game's a blowout, that's going to change stuff. But if it's competitive, I think we're seeing big minutes out of Chris Paul. Again, that's why I have a bunch of Chris Paul. Cam Johnson, another one.
Yeah, Chris Paul, I have less concerns on because it seems as though he's just uninhibited right out of the gate. And I'm a little bit upset with myself because normally those are the tournament spots where I'm willing to roll the dice. But it was a slate on Sunday, I think it was, where there were just enough other good guards. And talking through with Josh, was like, I didn't really need to play Chris Paul. And of course, he plays 38 minutes.
Let me see if we got did David Milks follow up with us and say which Williams?
McConnell's 62%. That completely makes sense to me. I had 72% of him. So I don't know what to say about it. He was a fantastic play, and I'm a little bit over.
So because he hasn't followed up, let's just do this for each of these guys.
Okay.
He said Williams. Who is the player around Mark Williams that we would like the best? That's probably nobody for me at 3,200. Like, the Biyombo is the closest I like.
Jackson Hayes is the only other player. I talked about him for a hot second there. We've seen Jackson Hayes just see spike in minutes for no reason whatsoever. He can get there in 18 minutes. If something happens where Jonas Valanciunas, Larry Nance, something happens in that direction, there's a path for him. But like, I have 2% of him, so I don't really call that a recommendation.
There's only 2 players priced around Robert Williams at center. One of them is Ivica Zubac. The other is Thomas Bryant. I like Thomas Bryant the most of those 3.
Yep, agreed. It's just so wild. I wish I had gotten paid off on the Thomas Bryant call the other night. That would have been very, very fun. But going up against Ivica Zubac, 5,700, Thomas Bryant, if he continues to play well, he gets run. If he doesn't play well, they go small and play LeBron at the 5. This is a spot where that is definitely a risk that you're taking where you could get played off the floor. But the ownership, it's low for a reason. He's 4%.
Got a couple more questions in Discord, and then we will look for our favorite PrizePicks props, some stuff that we have not already talked about, but Discord now. Iron Maiden wants to know if we could play Hero and Oladipo in the same lineup together. Yeah, no real problem with that.
None.
Next question is from Lippy. I'm getting a shit ton of Sam Hauser. He's 3K. Thoughts?
I get
What's
it. That's an optimizer thing. Don't play Sam Hauser.
I have 5% of Sam Hauser. I've 20 lineups I'm playing today. So he's in 1 out of 20 lineups.
I have 0.
It also depends what a shit ton means. Like if he's in half your lineups, that's an issue to me. If you played like 3 lineups and he's in 1 or 2, it's not the end of the world.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
The next question, we answered that one. And Lippy said he is 60% Sam Hauser. That's way too much Sam Hauser.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
Is that the only way that somebody can roster 60% Sam Hauser?
Drugs are bad. Okay.
The Maharishi. Doncic and Cam Johnson
starting.
or
Jesus.
Jokic and PJ Washington. It was Doncic and Cam Johnson or Jokic and PJ Washington. Doncic and Cam Johnson for me.
Doncic, Cam Johnson as well. But I know. What was the other one?
Jokic and PJ Washington.
Oh, I love this. I'm going to go Jokic, PJ Washington. I have to. And that's assuming Ball is out. I want to throw that massive caveat out there.
Yeah, and we don't know that yet. I think Ball is going to sit, but once again, just a guess. We don't know that for sure. Sir George Peelsworth is landing on PJ Washington as his last man in a FanDuel GPP. Do I need to blow up the lineup? Nope. Totally fine if he's your last man in.
Yes.
Starting lineup for the Wizards: Monty Morris, Bradley Beal, Corey Kispert, Kyle Kuzma, Daniel Gafford. Kendrick Nunn is available to play. Does that impact anything for you?
Yep.
I mean, not in terms of like whether we would play him, but does that impact anybody else on the Wizards?
Yeah, I mean, Denny Avdia, I didn't think he was going to start, but like, there's enough good plays on this slate where maybe you were hoping he would slide in there and he didn't. And
I thought he was starting.
Yeah, no, we gotta trim that down pretty severely. So I am gonna take that down. There's also, I mean, you could tell me Kendrick Nunn played 0 minutes, and you could tell me he played 26, and I wouldn't be surprised by either. Would you?
I would be very surprised if he plays 26 minutes.
Let's say 20. Would you be surprised by 0 or 20?
No, but I also understand what it is you're getting at, which is that if he's going to play today, those minutes have to come from somebody.
Correct.
Avdia isn't starting. It's not unreasonable to think that this makes Avdia a pretty over-owned piece on the slate.
Correct. I'm going to get to a little because, I mean, we had him at 31 minutes, 31.4 minutes here at Stokastic. I think that's exactly what you would have if you were in a starting position here. I think his minutes become like 25, 26, and that is an over-owned piece for a guy who's a 0.84 fantasy point per minute guy. Given rebound rate up, no Porzingis, sweet, but I can't do it now at this kind of ownership. I mean, I'd rather play a number of other pieces. I talked about all of the New Orleans Pelicans pieces that we still should have a tiny bit of interest in. Whether it's Herb Jones, who is 4,300, get up a little bit there. I just feel better about that play at sub 10%. Who's the guy who's identical to 4K for me there? I had switched over to some PrizePicks stuffs, but who's the identical 4K piece? Max Strus. This definitely for me makes me want to play a little bit more Max Strus as the direct pivot. I already had 26% of him at 11.2. We have him projected for. I might give him a little bit of a boost just to get to a little bit more at the same number and just say, hey, Field, you want to take Denny Avdia not starting? I'll take Max Strus starting.
Yeah, I am going to have, by the way, you know who I'm getting more of because of this news? I do have a couple more lineups with Sam Hauser now.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Corey Kispert.
No. So these are the two players that benefited the most from me as I'm rerunning lineups. I get to more of Cam Johnson, who I already mentioned I liked before, and Max Strus being the other one.
Who?
Max Strus. I was agreeing with you. I like Max.
I love you. I love you so much.
Strus.
I was reading the super chat about Iowa State because Ryan Nelson is a good man. He's a good man. And he brought up Iowa State basketball and it got me nostalgic.
Jokic will officially be playing today. So we've got that. We was on track to play as of like 30 minutes ago. Now we know Jokic will be playing today. And Ryan Nelson super chat, ISU basketball going for first place in the conference tonight, 5.5 favorites on the road. This team is so good. Big 12 title and another Sweet 16 trip. Are you betting on your squad tonight?
I'm not, because I don't bet college basketball unless it's something that gets dropped in the premium Discord from our guy Ben Raza or Eitan Shander. Just not my thing. I'm too wrapped up in NBA. Now I've got a PGA VOD, playing a lot of PGA DFS. That's my absolute baby. Love betting golf, love doing all things golf. MLB's coming up here in a month and a half. It just, everybody becomes a March Madness expert once the NCAA tournament rolls around. I'm sure I'll partake in some things and have some takes then. But until then, I just enjoyed watching this Iowa State team. They've had some gritty wins, beating a number 1 team in the country earlier in the season. It's a really fun basketball team. Outside of them, I don't really watch a lot of college ball anymore.
We just got the starting lineup for the Boston Celtics. And so my brother went to IU, and he's a big Indiana basketball fan.
I didn't know that.
All of the Indiana games.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I watched a game with them this year, they've won, and apparently they've sucked in every game I haven't watched. So I'm the secret for them.
There it
Celtics
is.
starting
They got to pay you. They can do that now.
Celtics starting lineup is Pritchard, White, Tatum, Grant Williams, Robert Williams.
Hi, Pritchard. Again, I think we got lucky yesterday with the minutes, and now he's starting. This is, I believe, his second start this season. Let me double check that. Second start this season, played on the 21st against Indiana. Yeah, you're going to play Peyton Pritchard today.
Yep, agree. I mean, so I was going to say the first start didn't go well. Don't read too much into that, because there are so many guys who are out for the Heat now. Should be a totally different scenario. So Peyton Pritchard, pretty good value option, and I definitely think is the best for me, at least.
Matty G, how do I not bring up Matt Kajeski's name? Because I bring up Matt Kajeski's name every Sunday, and we also have a make-believe feud. So I have to keep I got to keep appearances up there. Jordan Clyde knows what I'm talking about
him. You don't have to lie. Yeah, you forgot. It's whatever. You fucked up. It happens.
Nowadays, everybody want to talk. They got something to say, but it comes out when they move the lips. Just a bunch of shiverish. What the fuck up that? Forgot about Dre. Or
you clearly forgot about him. You just came with the most bullshit reason. You're like, no, I already do a show with them, so I can't. As if you've never worked with Ben Raza before. You're like, oh no, I had to shout out Eitan because I do a show with Matt Kajeski. Go fuck yourself, Eric. You are a phony and a liar, and I want you to own up to it.
I made a mistake, Greg. We're all entitled to make mistakes and learn from them. And I'm sorry to the one great Matt Kajeski. May he live forever in his cabin in the woods that we pay him to watch VHS tapes of tapes so that he can study.
He's going to die of mercury poisoning at some point anyway. He eats nothing but tuna fish. So good luck with that. But yeah, his diet is mostly tuna fish. Starting lineup for the Knicks: Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, Sims. DeAndre Ayton officially ruled out. So there we go. We can feel good about Bismack Biyombo as an option today. Biyombo is my most rostered center. Is that the case for you as well?
Biyombo? Yeah, no, this ownership doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm getting to a bunch of Biyombo.
I have 38% of him. What do you have?
I have to rerun my lineup still for the Wizards.
I mean, if he's going to be 17.8%, come on. This is just slam dunk territory.
He's going to be more than half my lineups, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty happy with 38%. I don't think I need to force it. I just like Bismack Biyombo so much. But here's the problem now. Peyton Pritchard's yet another cheap guard. Like before, a lot of the reason that I was getting to so much Tatum was because, well, everybody's going to punt at small forward. We just lost Denny Avdia. Okay. So he has fallen by the wayside in such an extreme way now. It's not even funny. We now have other guys like Jokic being ruled in. I'm very nervous that I'm going to have to eat my words and just end up, I'm updating stuff. And I just get a feeling when I click crunch or late swaptimize that I'm going to have very little Jason Tatum.
I mean, I've had very little Jason Tatum the whole time, and it's always been cool with me.
Yeah. I will say we are completely in lockstep when it comes to MVP voting about Jason Tatum. I know you and I have talked about that in the privacy of our own homes, that is. But we've talked a lot about Jason Tatum where it's I don't understand why he gets consideration or why he was a favorite for MVP once upon a time. It's Luka and Jokic are just on a different planet, a completely different planet. than Jason Tatum, who has a lot of cast pieces around him that are just better, like just flat out better.
All right, we've got some confusion here because we got a follow-up from David Milks to clarify about which Williams he was asking us about. And he gave us a Williams that doesn't exist. I don't know who Greg Williams is.
Grant Williams is who I'm assuming. That was the only other Williams we haven't talked about. And it starts with a G, so I'm assuming Grant Williams. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's reasonable to assume that he means Grant Williams as well. So let's assume he means Grant Williams and not Greg Williams.
Yes.
I'm not playing very much of Grant Williams. I don't have him in any lineups right now. But let's see, his price point is, I don't know whether you're asking for, so let's assume he means Grant Williams, and you tell me who your favorite pivot is on DraftKings in that price point of Grant Williams, and I'll do it for FanDuel.
Okay.
He's 5,400 on FanDuel.
Let's go to Grant Williams here. He is 4,900 and not in my player pool, so that's fun. Let's find a pivot off the guy that I'm not rostering. Let's do that. Jose Alvarado. I don't want to do that.
By the way,
Kyle
to
Lowry
me on FanDuel, it's Cam Johnson on FanDuel, 5,200.
Kyle Lowry, 4,800. God help us all.
Oh, that is right. You know, Greg Williams was the guy who put the bounties on players.
Is he really?
Yeah, wasn't he? He was the defensive coordinator.
Oh, for the Saints. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, somebody put it in. Larry C. threw in Greg Williams as the old Saints coach. Yeah, he's the guy who was the bounty gate.
Oh, what kind of planet are you on where you're paying your defensive players like $500 to go out and like take out legs? Like that's such a weird thing. You've made it to the NFL level, to the peak, the height of your sport, and you're willing to be like, oh yeah, no, I'll take $500 to go blow out a knee for some dude that, you know, I'm going to probably just be tackling and hurting anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more the thing he wanted his defense to be visible. It's incredibly stupid where it's like, hey, we play to hurt people. But yeah, it was try to get.
How about you play for a contract that's worth millions of dollars instead of, you know, a nice steak dinner, like $500? Get out of here with your weak sauce. Somebody just said Pritchard or Dyson Daniels. That's just Pritchard. We can move on.
Yeah, we got a question. That is from You Don't Know JD. I might not know JD, but I do know I have more exposure to Peyton Pritchard than Dyson Daniels today.
I thought you were going to do a Mitch Hedberg joke, and I was excited for it.
Does he have, what would be
don't know? I don't know. I thought you were going to, you don't know JD. Well, you don't know a lot of people. There are lots of people in the world.
Yeah, it's a good thing you weren't his writer. That was one of the jokes he wrote towards the tail end, maybe.
Yeah, when things weren't as good.
Yeah, and by the tail end, I mean like the final 5 minutes. That was like that was like the last thing he put on paper.
I can't come up with anything better than this. Goodbye.
Yeah, it is for sure Peyton Pritchard for me over Dyson Daniels.
I mean, McConnell, Hero, Pritchard, Biombo. I just have so much of these dudes.
Let's hit up PrizePicks now, and we could look at. Let me pull up PrizePicks on my screen. I know you mentioned PrizePicks before, and you had said that there was, you liked Luka's over fantasy points, if I remember correctly, right?
I liked the over of his points, 34.
Points. Sorry, my bad. Points.
You're okay. There's also a Taco Tuesday. Mason Plumlee, 24.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. You can put up to $25 on it. I'm going to do that right now, and I can't even do my Twitter giveaway. I usually was going to do a Twitter giveaway, and I just blanked and realized I can't do a Twitter giveaway. Can Jordan Klein do a Twitter giveaway for me?
No, I don't think anybody should be helping you with anything.
Okay, fine.
But anyway, Taco Tuesday. Yeah, so a couple reasons to like this. You're already getting a upgrade for our standpoint, but the prop has been brought down. Mason Plumlee's over-under for points plus rebounds plus assists was 29.5 over on PrizePicks. Now it's 24.5, and we potential for LaMelo Ball to be rolled out. If LaMelo is rolled out, that 29.5 points plus rebounds assists becomes what, 34.5?
Yep.
33.5, something like that. So a lot of value on the over for Mason Plumlee. Should be taking advantage of that. Let's actually, Jordan, can you put PrizePicks up on the screen? Let's build a card right on screen.
Love that for us.
So let's do Mason Plumlee over. Let's do Luka over
34.5.
over 34.5 points. So just making sure it was still there. Are there any Heat ones? Let's see. What is Hero at now? And Lowry. I might like go by Hero's kind of priced up already at this point. Let me compare this to where I've got Lowry at. Because I'm just thinking about somebody who's really low owned in DFS. Maybe I'm higher on the props. 12.5 is kind of okay.
Can you take me higher?
Oh, you know what's low for Tyler Hero? 2.5 threes, as I'm looking through some of the other props for Tyler Hero. That's one I like. Over 2.5 threes. Can you get behind that?
I like it. I like it a lot.
How much do you like it?
I like it a lot.
I do too. Over 2.5 threes for Tyler Hero. I think that's a good one for us. Is there anything else that you are noticing that really stands out to you on PrizePicks? Or if anybody in chat, by the way, has anything they like in PrizePicks?
What do you think? This isn't a guy I was cross-referencing because I don't think I have much of him, but the number seemed really, really low. Caleb Martin, 20 fantasy score. That's about efficient. I don't want to get in the habit of just like, oh, I project him for a fantasy point and a half more and then pulling the trigger on stuff like that. That's a good way to run into disaster in the long term, especially when you're combining props together. Don't get in the habit of that by any means. But Herbert Jones, 23.5 fantasy score. You get 3 points over on PrizePicks, similar to FanDuel for steals and blocks. That is a very low number for Herbert Jones, a guy who at 4,300 over on DK. He's showing up a lot in the absence of Denny Avdia now. So I want to give him a specific shout out. That number is too low.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense as well. So I think that's a pretty good PrizePicks prop card. We're good with all that.
We are.
Don't forget, if you guys are signing up for the first time, use our link. Get access to the Taco Tuesday that's up right now, Mason Plumlee. But also, you stop using our link, 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. In addition, you can get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit over at PrizePicks. Free money. Corey Shea, did you say Denny is out of the starting lineup? He's playing today. He's just not starting.
Yeah. So I went from having quite a bit of him, and Greg and I were pretty adamant that he was good chalk to saying he is very bad chalk.
Yeah, I had a bunch of him, and I have a lot less now. I don't have 0% of him, but I have, let's see, 15% right now. Less than I would have had if he was starting. Zuit. Landale.
Throw back a bottle of beer.
Zuit. Zuit?
Zuit sounds good. Zuit TurboTax. Get your taxes done.
Landale, Biyombo, very close in projection / optimal. Anything to see there. I personally prefer Biyombo. Landale, you know what's weird? When Ayton is playing, Landale is ahead of Biyombo in the rotation, and then Ayton gets hurt or he's sick, whatever it may be, and all of a sudden Biyombo plays a ton of minutes. It's very weird how they use Jacques Landale, but I prefer...
I think it's a little bit of a hot hand approach, but if I'm trying to project it out, it's hard not for me to give the advantage to the guy who's starting. So assuming Biyombo is the one starting, which I think we all do, he's still the guy. He's still your guy.
But I mean, also 3 weeks ago, Landale was starting alongside Ayton and Biyombo was out of the rotation. Like, how do we go from that to Biyombo starts over Landale? It's very weird.
Because Landale was starting
with Ayton active, and now Ayton's out and he doesn't start anymore. And Biyombo does.
Explain it to me. I can't.
The next question here is, I thought we had another super chat, didn't we? Oh, here it is. Big Boy A. I forget. We were trying to figure out what this... Right, the Filipino peso. Filipino peso. Rank them in order of priority. Dyson Daniels, Denny, Grant Williams. Oh, wow, this is a lot of guys. Okay, so rank in order of priority. Dyson Daniels, Denny Avdia, Grant Williams, Dorian Finney-Smith, Max Strus, Troy Brown. And then who do we prefer out of Bismack, Biyombo, or Gafford? And everything in capital letters. This is urgent. ASAP. So in terms of your first guys, the clear priority for me is Max Strus amongst those players. Will Eric stop paying attention? All right. So
I was trying to find the super chat so I could read it because you said a lot of names in a row. Rank them in order of priority. Dyson Daniels, Denny. DFS Max Strus. I mean, that's a lot of names for me to remember off the cuff. No offense to
You should
myself.
remember them all.
Well, and which do you prefer, Bismack or Gafford? So Bismack for sure,
Yes.
assuming he starts. And then Dyson Daniels, Denny. So Denny goes by the wayside because he's going to be overowned. Like, it's impossible. He's been written up everywhere. Everybody's talked about him all day. Grant Williams, I have no interest in. DFS, I have no interest in. Max Strus is probably 1. Dyson Daniels 2. Troy Brown 3.
It's hard for me to rank like all of them in general, especially because there's a bunch of these guys I just didn't play at all.
Yeah.
But I'll just say the clear priority of that group is Max Strus.
Correct. And the Troy Brown thing, it's like he's completely unowned, where it's like he's 0% owned, where his role at 3,800 might not be completely different to Danny's. We just don't know. Now that Denny isn't starting, it's just a difficult thing to project for.
And we are caught up on the super chats. I'll go back into Discord and see what we have in here, but nothing. We are all caught up on them. So let's tilt the early action. Oh, never mind. We just got a super chat from Adam Scherer.
Oh.
There's no question here, though. So if you have a question for us, Adam, throw it into just the YouTube chat and I'll answer that. You don't have to pay any more money. You don't have to leave us another super chat. Just type out what your question is in the YouTube chat and I'll answer it.
TJ McConnell played 5 minutes, 2 steals and a block for chalk TJ McConnell.
Do you get in foul trouble?
No, I don't think so. No, 0 minutes. So they just brought in the Pacers. Trevelyan Queen just came in at the first 5 minutes in. So maybe we're not looking at 39 minutes from TJ McConnell is what I'm getting at, but he's still going to play a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also got like 10. He's putting up 2 fantasy points per minute right now. Also,
it's just so absurd. I've never seen anything like this. I couldn't play 100%. He wasn't like an all-in jam. He's 6,100, but like I was still over the field, and I just kept looking at it and laughing. I just can't wait to get in Discord. I just can't. I need to get in there right now. It's going to be hilarious.
Shea, Herbert Jones, or Max Strus. I have more exposure to Strus.
Strus is an awesome play right now at his ownership.
And then once again, Adam. Oh, here's Adam's question. He asked Strus or Denny for cash. I still go towards Strus. I think Denny's going to be overowned in cash games, and I'll generally just kind of go with whoever's most popular. But I project Strus like quite a bit better than Denny now that Denny isn't starting.
Agreed.
But what would you do with Denny in cash games? Because that's what the question's asking us.
I wouldn't play him. I would just hit eject on it. I don't think there's a point. I know he's going to be popular, but like I just project Strus for more fantasy points. Like just play the guy that you have the higher projection on.
If it's close, I would just say to box out the field, go with everybody else, but I just don't have it all that close right now. So Max Strus, that's going to be my answer there.
I had some Cameron Johnson just for you, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, people are asking who Traveling Queen is.
Traveling Queen, only 17.
That was Eric's nickname in college. Other than that, though, I don't. I forget. Is Queen a rookie or a sophomore?
She's a killer queen. I have no idea.
I think it's his second year. Anyway,
I know he played at New Mexico State, if that counts for anything, because he was on that really good New Mexico State team.
Well, I have no clue where he went to college.
New Mexico State. I told you the answer. I have a lot of golf friends that played at New Mexico State, so I randomly remember that that's where he went.
All right. Ryan is saying that Queen's been in the league for a while.
I have no idea. I just know that he was on a really good New Mexico State team like 3 years ago.
Let me look up his player profile.
So I think they had.
This is his second. It's his second year in the NBA for Traveling Queen.
So maybe he was like overseas or something for a year. That would make sense because I think he played for who's the UCLA coach now? The former Hawkeye, great dude, UCLA head coach. I'm just blanking on the last name. Head coach basketball.
I'm out of my element when you're talking about.
Oh, it's college. Mick Cronin now at UCLA, but before it was somebody else that was the head coach in New Mexico State that then went to UCLA. Must have gotten fired.
Yeah, I
This man will not stop telling us he played for there. Hey, it's not very often I can pull out the Makajeski thing. That was my homage to my friend Makajeski, who's so good at knowing where people went to college.
By the way, his name is a Trevelin Queen and not Traveling.
I said Trevelin.
No, people in chat somebody in chat thought he was Traveling Queen.
Oh, but then that's funny. That's Greg's nickname for me.
Yeah, totally different.
Which is okay because again, love is love, and I love when Greg loves me.
Queen this year, absolutely dog shit numbers. He's shooting 28% from the field, 16.7% from three. Not great efficiency.
It's not ideal.
Any concerned about TJ McConnell's minutes now?
No, I'll be okay.
And either way, lock boxing into all the defensive stats right now. 2 steals, a block, an assist, 2 points for McConnell. So
he's the gift that keeps on giving.
Feeling good about it anyway. We're about to head into lock. Is there anything else that we've not yet talked about that you want to mention before we sign off? There are only about 30 seconds left.
No, I feel good. Vooch, what a sick start to his game.
Yes.
Less than 9 minutes in, 8-5-2 for him. I don't know if I have any. I'm about to go search for it here in a second, but best of luck. Enjoy the PrizePicks streets. Oh, Duke, it's walk time. That's what I just
He knows when it's time to go. All right, guys, that does it for us. If you haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck. See you back here tomorrow.